everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the dining room table and the Court of Public Opinion in session, ladies and gentlemen, all the way through till midday today. Oh, yes. How sweet it is. You can give us a call anytime you like if you would like to do that. 0491 65 68 60. Tony's here. Gary's here. You're here. We're, I know what I've forgotten. I didn't bring my watch with me.
Oh.
Which means we're going to have to get that one there and stick it up.
There she comes.
Oh, the phone calls are coming in. We're here for Rossdale Homes, ladies and gentlemen, and a full program. What have we got? Oh, Dr. John Bruni's coming in at 9:30 with plenty to talk about. Professor Plimer at 10 o'clock. A wonderful man, an educator of great renown. His name is Dr. Kevin Donnelly AM, an Australian educator. He is a commentator, knows more about education and teaching than you could imagine. He's got a new book out too, which is called The War on Woke. That'll be interesting. Frank Pangallo is going to drop by. Toby Ralph is a strategist. We all need a strategist.
Yeah.
Would look good on your
Strategist.
tax return, you know.
It would.
Tax return, yes. Anyway, the upcoming campaign of Pauline Hanson is going to be interesting. He knows a thing or two about that. Toby Ralph is his name. He'll join us. Maria, how are you? What have you done?
She's playing music this morning.
You're playing music. She's put us on hold. Never mind. I love the language coming out of Canberra, where Jim Chalmers was on television.
Maria.
Hi, Maria. Just hang on there for a second. Don't hang up. He was on television, obviously selling his back down or back flip or whatever. And I constantly referring to the budget changes, which are just the lies, which will bring this government down. But he constantly refers to reform. What is
reform? Means
what is
more
reform?
tax.
I hate that word. It makes it sound like there was something really wrong before.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong before. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Reform means more tax.
Yeah, of course it does. More for him to waste.
Maria.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, how are we all?
Young, alive, and a lot of fun.
Hi, Maria.
Hey, Maria.
Hi, how are you?
Lovely.
Yeah, we're all well.
Yeah. Well, good morning to Jeremy Cordeaux's press club.
Oh.
No stunts.
Actually,
And I'm sick to the back teeth.
Why?
That's what Pauline Hanson said the other day. I'm sick to the back teeth.
Yeah.
He meant fed up
That's
to the back
Mixed
teeth.
metaphors. Lovely.
nothing wrong with mixing your metaphors.
No.
Actually,
No.
Maria, I thought the other day there isn't a program anymore. There was a program called Meet the Press, and it was a very successful program. Illustrious journalists around a table, and they would discuss. Eric Boehm was in it. A lot of people. It's going back a while.
It is going back a while, and yes, I agree with you. It was good, and it had a calibre of journalists that were very respectful and didn't actually doctor all the interviews and insert things that people hadn't said.
Yep.
Yes, I agree with you.
Ethics.
Yes.
You couldn't pull the wool over their ears.
No.
Sorry.
Go on, Maria.
Yeah. I'll get my little bell next week. I have been trying the last couple of weeks to put this forward. When John Bruni comes in, Jeremy, could you ask him in regards to the AUKUS submarines?
Yeah.
could we have the old Collins class? Could we, with a new generation Collins class, could that be built here at Port Adelaide as we did for the old one, and have it rejigged that we can have it nuclear propelled? Because that we've got the facility there, we will have the workers there, it will be ongoing to have, employment. And if there's any bugs or anything, we could have them rectified before they actually go out to sea.
Well, they do have shakedown cruises just to make sure that the thing doesn't sink. It floats. Well, actually, it's meant to sink, but it's got to sink at the right time on the right command.
Yes, exactly.
Dive.
If it doesn't sink, it's a failure.
Before 2030 or whatever it is, when we're getting the second-hand ones, we may have a nearly completed Collins new generation new one.
Yeah, we could go back and I wonder what they did with the old. What was the class before the Oberon class? Yeah, we probably have a few of those sitting around in dry dock somewhere. We could paint them up.
There's one in Sydney Harbour you can go on.
Is that true?
You can do a sort of a tour.
I knew they used to have them all tied up. They never went out. There were about 7 of them, all tied up at Blackwattle Bay. And you could drive past on the road on top of the hill at Blackwattle Cove there, and you could see all these black submarines all tied together, side by side.
It's actually part of the Sydney Maritime Museum on the other side from the city.
Well, I think you can always resurrect and give things a second chance.
Well, do you know that it's very easy to buy a Russian submarine? I have a friend in Holland.
You know people.
Oh, I got very well connected. Case Shoemaker, his name was.
Okay.
And I said to him, in Australia, we'd call you a Case. And he's got this submarine that was going past. We're talking about a little point, I can't think of the name of it now, right at the tip where they have to come out to get back in the ocean when they leave the Baltic.
Like the Hummers Strait, yeah.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, they'll put a toll on that shortly. But he owned a pub that was on the beach.
Yeah.
And one night all these lights were out to sea, so they started doing Morse code to it and said, free beer. And these Russians, this is a true story. In fact, they did a movie about it eventually. The Russians rowed to shore, free beer and girls, they said. The Russians rowed to shore in a rubber dinghy, and they asked them what they're doing. They said, we're towing a submarine around to India to scrap it.
Oh, we'll leave it here.
Case said, how much? They sold it to him for $1,000.
My God.
True story. Wow. I've been on board of this thing. Yeah, and he's converted into a pub.
The whole submarine?
A whole submarine.
What does he call it, just out of interest?
The submarine.
Well, I've been on board this thing. It was complete with uniforms, belts, and all sorts of bits.
I love
and
the
pieces.
Russians. They underneath all that socialism and communism,
$1,000.
there was a capitalist heart beating.
He bought a tank as well, army tank.
I love everything's for sale in the
Don't
Soviet
you love
Union.
it? Anyway,
Everything's
moving on.
for sale. Go on, Maria.
Okay, yeah. Want to comment about the press club's comments and stunts and everything. We have to actually get Pauline a updated detail to protect her safety, because someone may do.
Say it again, Maria. You dropped out.
But there are implications to this, and whoever did it, Get Up should be defunded, their not-for-profit status denied, and the money in the kitty and any other monies from the individuals that did this stunt should go to pay for her upgraded detail with the AFP. Now, look, we can agree to disagree, but this is not acceptable, and that is for any politician. Yeah. we might not like Albo, but I bet you, Get Up wouldn't do that to Albo or to the Liberals.
Well,
or
I'd like to
the
know how
Greens.
they got in there to do it. How would you get in there to do it?
Well, no, here's how. Maria, the person from Get Up who was in the audience was David Shiraz, Miss Higgins' husband.
That's correct, yeah.
And it's pretty clear that he may have had something to do with it. And I'm also reading a story here in the Australian $1 million question. What happened to Brittany Higgins' $2.4 million payout? They can't find the money. For
it's in one of those trusts.
Gone missing?
All gone missing. No. Can't find it.
No, it's in one of those trusts.
Okay, stop talking over each other. Come on.
Tony, it's in one of those trusts that Albo's going to hit.
That's right.
but it's under not her name, it's under a fictitious name. So we would have to follow, those transactions she and Shiraz are very rich, but Tricky Dickies, have put it in a trust.
Well, there's nothing wrong or illegal about putting money in a trust. It's just that you have to be transparent about it at some stage with the taxation department. Anyway, as those people sue like they're crazy people, let's not go too far there, please.
No. Now, in regards to Pauline's comment, congratulations, Pauline. Up and at 'em, keep going. You will be Prime Minister one day. And the Guardian's horrible, nasty journalist that is so tacky, fancy attacking a female. How disgusting. You're all about feminism and everything, and you do this to a politician. You may not like it, but 28 different horrible, tacky, tricky, misinformation, false lies, you should be sacked.
Which journalist was that?
The Guardian.
Oh, The Guardian. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, they have a completely different demeanour, completely different attitude when the lefties, the socialists, the Labor Party get up there. They're all part of a sort of a cabal. I don't know.
Yes.
Is it a club? I don't know what it is. I mean, she is an outlier. She is an outlier. They are true liars. And normally you give a bit of a break to the underdog. But the thing about Pauline was that she handled that perfectly, that whole thing, apart from being probably the most watched ever press club luncheon, or listened to press club luncheon. She acquitted herself, and I would think would get a nice bump in the popularity poll.
Here's something in The Guardian itself. It says, Media Union blasts Pauline Hanson's bitter, unprofessional attack on The Guardian journalists. So they've turned around and blasted.
They can't take it, but they can give it.
Yeah. Now, the other interesting thing that I've read, that the Adelaide University's going to do a campaign against Pauline to bring her down. They are campaigning to get people to join membership of the Adelaide University, and they are going to hammer, like they did with the Palestinian possibly sit-in and that. Universities are there to educate, not to protest and be activists. Now, the Chancellor should put a stop to that. We can protest, but not in a educational university. If you want to be an activist, do it outside the university because there are students there that actually do want to learn. And yes, I know they'll have a fond memory because Albo was in a university and was an activist as well. But adding to their liars list, he's done another lie by backing down from, his really once-in-a-generation change in tax reform. Well, was that for the young that he was going to do that and have the funds for it for equity and intergenerational support for the young. Well, he's blowing that up in smoke, hasn't he, by backing down? So there's another 50 lies.
But they should be abolishing all of capital gains tax, all of it.
Yeah, capital gains.
Like New Zealand.
Yeah.
They're doing very well.
Yes. Yeah, you're right, Tony. Capital gains tax, excises, levies.
Luxury car tax. FBT should go. Let the restaurants thrive and they'll get more money out of it in taxes and spending.
Yeah,
they're
they
just
would,
so short-sighted.
Yeah, they would be up in arms as we speak that we're suggesting this. But if they don't tax us, yes, exactly. Because we are masters of our own destiny. We've got the money.
And you can see this with the cigarette excise.
Exactly, I was going to say.
It's so bloody obvious. You lift the cost or the
less.
Yeah, they're making a fraction of what they used to get when people accepted the excise. But you start taxing people from every different direction at every different level of life, and you will get nothing. Maria, have a lovely weekend. I just realised I didn't get my cup of tea. Yeah, I said I'd ring Mike O'Reilly. We will do that in just a couple of seconds. Our telephone number, 0491 65 68 60 is the telephone number. Let's see if Mike's there. It's definitely ringing. By the way, on that same number, you can send us a what do they call those things? An SMS?
Tony, is that you?
No. Is that Mike?
It is.
Hi.
Yes, Jeremy.
Yeah. You well?
I am indeed. Are we talking on the Magic Radio at this moment?
We certainly are.
I tell you what, I'm worked up. I am really worked up. I just could not believe that yesterday Albo, so-called PM, comes out and says, we're going to carve out some of the ridiculous taxation legislation that they revealed last week. It just astonishes me how this guy can hide behind weasel words.
It's spin.
Oh, spin.
Yeah.
It's set a new world record for spin as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
A carve out. Let's have a carve out.
Well, I was saying earlier, the Treasurer talks about reform at every opportunity as he roams around the country today trying to sell his modifications to the pack of lies that gave us this year's budget. And he keeps on referring to reform. It's not easy to reform. What is reforming about these changes, which are a blatant lie and going back on a election promise?
I reckon 90% of the population can't be wrong, because that's, I reckon, is what the figures would be at the moment of people believing anything that he says.
Yeah.
And then to say, we revealed this, and then we're going to have community engagement on it. Look, I've worked in community engagement on major, multi-million-dollar projects like the Northern Expressway, the Southern Expressway, Adelaide Hills Tunnels. I've worked on a lot of road projects and mining projects where you actually do engage with the community. You have to have formal sit-downs. You have to take the heat sometimes, and you've got to modify your plan. And in fact, we always called these things, there was never a plan for, let's say, the Northern Expressway. There was a scheme. It was a scheme until you got agreement.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. That sounds democratic, reasonable, responsible.
Yeah. So, at the moment, I just think this is this is no way to run a country. You can't announce and then defend.
That's the thing. Announce and defend. And he's running around the country doing that at this very moment, telling us how lucky we are. You ain't never had it so good, I could hear him say.
Yeah, sure, that's BS.
Yes.
But look, I just find it astonishing, and I went out on my Facebook last night and said, how can you describe, a backflip as a carve out? And this is the Prime Minister hiding behind words. Carve out is a back down, and I just feel that more and more we're seeing just what a machine is the ALP, and that really the ALP is a coalition. It's a coalition of unions and elected members of Parliament who fly under the banner of the ALP. But, in the background, there are unelected power brokers.
Yeah, you remember
pushing the buttons.
You remember in the old days, there were the 12 faceless men who ran the Labour Party, and the Prime Minister would sit out in the hall, and then when the 12 faceless men had decided what the policy on this, that, and the other thing was going to be, they would call in the Prime Minister, and they would hand him his riding instructions. Now, this is a little bit different, but it's the same. And really, what do we expect? Because the Labour Party is owned by the trade union movement.
Correct. It's a duality party.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, people that vote Labour, they get both. But one of them is one of the two legs of this operation. People like the CFMEU, for God's sake.
Yeah. Yeah, and don't you love the way the government from time to time has an inquiry into this CFMEU? They appoint somebody to look into it and straighten it out. Nothing ever happens. and then they pretend that they didn't know that the crime and corruption was going on.
Of course not.
They don't know that the old Waterside Workers' Union used to stand people up against the wall and extort money.
Yes, yeah. And hold ships.
Yeah.
And look, Jeremy, I worked for the Advertiser as a young journalist in Whyalla, 1973, 74, and then again in 76. Mm. And that's when we actually had a shipyard and made big ships in Whyalla.
Indeed.
Yeah. And I would watch them coming to fruition, and then the BHP, the shipyard owner, would send out invitations. I'd get one of these invitations, lovely card saying, on the 13th of July or something, the SS whatever Whyalla ship number 23 was going to be launched, and so you'd all be ready. And then 48 hours before, the union back then, which was the a blockage here, but the Waterside Workers and the ship's painters and dockers. The painters and dockers, remember them?
Yeah.
Oh,
you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of that crowd.
Right.
Mate, they would send black hands to people in the post, and I know one of the union guys up in Whyalla, he got a black hand. And that came from Melbourne. It was like, do as we say, or you will get rubbed out. Yeah. Anyway, you'd get the ship's painters and dockers saying, oh, no, we think we need extra time for this or extra money for that. And of course, up in Whyalla, because you're at the top of the peninsula, the tides were absolutely required to be high to launch the ship. So you had the company and the owners of this ship who spent years having it developed would be sitting there having to agree to the ship's painters and dockers and their demands, because you could not launch the boat on any other day, and you'd have to wait probably a month to do it again when the tides were right.
Yeah.
So, I saw this stuff happening, and it's, and now, of course, what happened? No shipyard, closed down.
And the union has done a good job for its workers, have they?
Yeah.
They'd have the best condition and the best conditions and the best salary, except we just don't have an industry anymore. Sorry, fellas. Sorry.
Yeah. And
Whoops.
look, I heard your earlier caller talking about, the Collins class submarine. We do have a facility that builds these things, and it has to be redeveloped. And full marks to all governments that are working on it. But it's like I said, I was worked up last night and yesterday.
Look, I don't blame you. I just don't understand how a country could have 1 year ago re-elected this crowd and with an increased majority. 94 seats, I think they've got in Parliament.
It astonishes me. But honestly, I think people are getting wound up at the moment, and as with Pauline Hanson, there's a rationale here, and there's likely to be some form of coalition of those willing to stop Labor from getting back in.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter if it was a marriage of convenience or whatever, but Pauline said at this very table that she didn't want an official coalition, but that doesn't mean to say that they can't work together. In fact, I think she said that she would be prepared to guarantee supply and confidence.
She did.
She did.
Yep.
Yeah.
She did. Yeah.
Do you remember, Mike, Chris Corrigan?
I do, yes, yeah.
We used to talk to Chris Corrigan at the old 5DN when he was in the middle of this terrible strike that Patrick's...
the stevedoring.
Yep. The lockout and the absolute thuggery that went on. I don't know if at some point somebody could have called in the army and straightened the whole thing out, but he told me amazing stories that the union insisted that he prepare pay packets for people that not only didn't come to work, but didn't even exist.
Oh, good Lord.
And those pay packets, he called them ghosts.
There was a lot of that on the docks.
Yeah, so he had to pay the union all of these salaries for people who didn't even exist. And if he didn't do that, they would call the ship or the dock or whatever black, and then nothing would move. And he called their bluff. He called their bluff and locked them out.
Yes,
I remember.
Yeah.
That.
Well, I tell you, I can give you an actual instance of the Melbourne docks, and this was probably about 8 to 10 years ago. A friend of mine, John, imported a yacht from the United States after one of the big storms in Florida. The insurance companies will write off only a slightly damaged yacht. So he went online on eBay and he bought a Beneteau, which is a yacht, a 33-footer, and I helped him with the transshipping. It came via New Zealand. Anyway, by the time it arrived at the docks in Melbourne, he got the phone call saying, "Yep, it's here. Your boat is here. We've just unloaded it." So he went there and was told, "Well, you need to take this." Well, he knew he had to take that boat to be inspected to make sure whether it had any bugs or whatever or seawater in it to a government facility, and so it was due to be loaded onto a flat top truck. And all over the docks there, they have these gigantic forklifts, and this thing only weighed about 3 tons. And he was informed that, no, this was too heavy, mate. We'll need to use a crane for this. And guess what? Using their crane on the dock, $1,000. And he had nowhere to go. He had to go driving to several holes in the wall and go in the bank and got $1,000, came back. This is cash, mind you. Yeah. And this happened on the docks in Melbourne.
Broad daylight.
So, yeah, absolutely right. So they loaded it up with this thing, put it on the flat top. John followed the flat top truck to the government station for inspection, which was a couple of kilometres away. And guess what they did there? They took it off with a small forklift. And he was $1,000 down, and
doesn't surprise me.
It was absolute blackmail, and it was happening on the docks.
Well, we have to stand up against thuggery and Al Capone and whoever is behind it, the mafia or a political party. You just can't knuckle under to that sort of thing. I don't know. You remember the what was it? The ABCC. This was the cop on the beat for the building industry.
That's right, Building Construction
Commission or whatever.
Yeah,
and they were responsible for cleaning up what the old Builders Labourers Federation and now, of course, the CFMEU were doing in building sites around the country. And the first thing this lot did was to get rid of the cop on the beat. Now, I wonder why they did that.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. And nobody goes to jail. Nobody goes to jail. They get re-elected.
I'm glad I called in because I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm not so worked up. There you go.
Well, you relax there, boy.
Well, look, I'll tell you a lovely little story that happened to me yesterday. In between looking after grandbabies and whatever, I went to Foodland at Ross Trevor. And so I picked up the usual veg, you name it. And as I was leaving, as I went to the cash out, there was a young lad and scanning things. And I said, oh, here's my Romeo's card. Yep, scan that. And also I said, I've got an old guy's card here, a senior's card, right? And Foodland now gives you a percentage off every day of the week. It used to be just Thursdays, like a pensioner day. Now it's every day of the week. Romeo's do this. So you got your senior's card. So I said, I've got my old guy's card here, and the mature woman alongside at the next cash out, she said, no, she said, I call that the Legends card.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, honestly, I said to the young guy, I said, this lady here, you could learn something from her. She knows how to talk to the public and make you feel fantastic. I said, love, Legends card, I'm going to talk about that. So now I'm talking about it. It's out there. You know, the seniors card, it's a Legends card. And that made my day.
You have a great weekend, Mike.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Wonderful to talk to you. What a grandfather.
See you, Tony.
What a grandfather he is.
You'll never change that smile, you're smiling now. And please don't let me see you blue. Man, I can tell you oh so easily. I could easily fall in love with you.
Wonderful Cliff Richard, ladies and gentlemen. John Bruni's just arrived. And they're talking about the birthday party.
The birthday party, Trump's pool, you know, that magnificent pool, which is about the size of the Chrysler Building, maybe the Empire State Building. Yeah. You know, when he came up with those crazy graphics, I mean, it's not a swimming pool, it's a reflecting pool. And it is not a building, so you can't put a building next to a reflecting pool. I mean, maybe you can, I don't know. I mean, these days, everything that can possibly be out there goes, yeah?
Well, I didn't see the shenanigans. What did the fight in the cage, what did that look like?
Well, the UFC 250, it was full of lethality. It was full of people smashing the snot out of each other. Yeah. It was full of the smell of that acrid jockstrap in the White House as they were preparing and, you know, doing their training inside some of the most hallowed political spaces in the United States. What did I think of that? I thought, you know, is he Emperor Commodus of the Roman Empire? Is this because this is how he would have celebrated his birthday, right? Yeah. So this is very Roman imperial, very little 21st century American. But anyway, you know, make everything old new again is what I say.
Did you see one of the political cartoonists did a beautiful illustration of Trump leaning over the end of that Paul, looking at his own reflection,
With
saying,
Ronald McDonald as the reflection. Loved it.
"You're gorgeous,"
Loved
he
it.
says.
Yes, loved it. Yes.
80th birthday. Okay. Okay. I said, I think, on the podcast from the garage that he was probably trying to get eventually an honorary knighthood from the King of England.
He'd love that.
But I forgot he can get an OBE.
Well, he can.
Over
bloody 80.
Over bloody 80.
Yes, indeed he can. But, Jeremy, it's not a good look when I just get an over bloody 80. I want a prize. I want a medal. I don't want a medal. I want a statue. Come on, give me a break. Oh, God. So I've got an American friend of mine, love him to death, Anyway, he was telling me about what's happened in the U.S. national park system, right? So they've made it so very difficult for foreigners to come into the United States, whether they're, immigrants or tourists. But what they've done is now they've slapped Trump's picture on the recreation and forestry pass that you need to buy to go into a park. So there is no escaping the great man, you see. You go to Washington, D.C., you've got all these Saddam Hussein-style posters all over the place, showing the orange one at his magnificence. Then, you've got your passport with his ugly mug on your, your passport. Then you've got all the... And look, okay, I get it. I get he's a narcissist. I think that we don't need any more evidence to show that he's a narcissist. But where is the restraint in the system? Why can't people just turn around and say, Mr. President, I think this is a really stupid idea, and our system is robust enough to push back on this. Now, I suppose the only good thing about that, and just for people, is that the Trump Kennedy Center is now reverted back to the Kennedy Center. I suppose you could say that that's one great pushback by the system, but it's one, and we have to push back on many different fronts.
But he's surrounded himself with sycophants.
Yes.
I don't understand why every time he makes an announcement, he's sitting down like the king, and he surrounds himself with 20 or 30 sycophants.
Well, he's sitting down.
Pathetic to watch.
At the moment, he's sitting down, Gary, sleeping.
Oh, is that it?
Right, and then the other people are
Excuse
talking.
me.
Yes,
I misread the room, as it were.
Now, this 14-point understanding that's resulted in the last couple of days.
Yes.
So we now know what's in there and what isn't in there, and it seems to be wildly open to interpretation.
Wildly open to interpretation, because it's not written with any sense of guarantee between countries that have any basis of trust. Everything that we see at the moment, firstly, it's not a peace agreement. It's not a peace arrangement. It's not a piece of anything. Well, it is a piece of something, but I won't say it on air. But the one...
Shite.
Yeah. Well said, Gary. But there is one thing that it is. It's a temporary ceasefire that they've put together. Now, a ceasefire means the cessation of all hostilities for now.
Yeah.
But the problem with the document, the 14-point document, is that there is no way for the parties to move forward. And then, oh, by the way, there's Israel. And, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's marching to his own beat because he truly does believe that Israel has a major national security problem along Israel's northern border. He sees Lebanon, or southern Lebanon, where, the home base of Hamas is, as ripe for the picking. They've already weakened Hezbollah quite a bit. And now he's just declared that, he's taken 10 kilometers of southern Lebanese territory, and that becomes a buffer zone, which is effectively a land grab. So, because that land that goes to Israel now will never go back to Lebanon, right? So we're going to start seeing some very interesting things happen in the Levant, which will have a direct impact on those 14 points. Because, of course, Israel and the United States jointly went into this war together. So if they need a ceasefire, both of them have to agree to the terms of the ceasefire. If one of them breaks it, the ceasefire is over, we go back to normal.
I can't see how President Trump can claim any victory, any comfort even, out of it. What does he get out of it?
Well, he gets to stop the war and walk away.
Well, he gets
to stop the war and walk away, Jeremy. That's all he gets.
Too hot in the kitchen, so he's out of the kitchen.
If he truly wanted to be a man of his word to the Iranian people, he would have boots on the ground helping Iranian opposition groups, armed Iranian opposition groups, might I add, go after the Ayatollahs and the IRGC. This is the nightmare scenario that Trump, for all his bluster, cannot do, because he knows that will destroy whatever little legacy he will have left at the end of his term. If all of a sudden by the end of his term he's got 100,000 boots on the ground in Iran taking fire from left, right and centre, and the Iranian opposition floundering around not having a plan of how to get rid of the odious regime sitting in Tehran. So, basically he went into this war with no plan. And okay, maybe a little later in the war, he's thought to himself, well, okay, I've got no plan. I'll get out and everything's okay again. We'll go back to normal.
So not even no exit strategy, but no plan whatsoever.
No plan whatsoever. Not for helping the Iranian opposition, not for getting rid of the Iranian authorities as they are currently structured, nothing. It was just a wish fulfillment list. I was speaking to someone pretty senior in the defense realm in Europe about a week ago, and he said, "Look, John, I know from my American colleagues that Benjamin Netanyahu sent a memo to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump just swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. So if it was that simple for the Israeli prime minister to con the Americans into a war they were not really committed to fighting to the bitter end, what was this all about?" Now, okay, one could say, yeah, but John, there were only light casualty, 500 wounded and maybe 13 US service personnel killed. But just imagine for a moment in my counterfactual universe, had this war not happened, those people would still be either uninjured or alive. And, by the way, those billions of dollars squandered on first-rate, these exquisite military systems that we shot down really cheap Iranian drones and missiles with, they don't come back on stream for months, if not years. So if, for instance, the Russians or the Chinese decide to, blow up the red balloon tomorrow over Taiwan or over the Baltics or whatever, with what exquisite weapon system will we go into this war with when at least a third, as far as we understand, of all these American Patriot batteries have been fired off in defense of the Gulf states? I don't know. To me, it sounds like a disaster. I mean, the lack of common sense, the lack of planning, the lack of any form of anything. And I mean, look, the Americans have never really been good war fighters. I'll put that out there, right? I know that I'm going to cop some flack for it, but name me one war they've won since 1945.
No,
and even in 1945,
true.
The Americans tend to overdo their own sense of fighting, but all the allies, well, they don't exist. I mean, you just look at the way that Hollywood depicts World War II. It was only the Americans front and center fighting the Nazis. Yeah. It was not the Soviets. It was not any European. It was the Commonwealth. What's that? Britain. Royal Australia, Royal Air Force. What the hell was that? Battle of Britain? Oh no, the Americans won that too. And if you see Trump and the way that he has denigrated the old veteran community, especially the old World War II veteran community, whether it be in America or over the other side of the pond in Europe, then you can honestly say he has no concept, and he's fed into this Hollywood-esque rubbish mythologizing of American military might. And again, the last couple of wars, dare we mention Afghanistan? Dare we mention Iraq? Dare we mention Vietnam?
No.
Dare we mention everything barring the two great notable successes in the 1980s? Grenada, yes. A tiny, tiny rock in the Caribbean, plus, oh, by the way, what was the other one? Panama, right? A military giant. They won those quite convincingly, by the way, but the rest of them were not convincing victories. So American military power, it's a Hollywood myth in many ways, and the Americans only fought when the Europeans, both in World War I and World War II, were completely and utterly exhausted. Then they came in toward the end. I am sorry to have to say this, but pick up a history book and read your history.
They did achieve something. The idea that you can weaponize geography is so clever. Rockets and tanks and aeroplanes, they all cost money.
Yep.
But you can absolutely stuff up not only your enemy, but you can stuff up the entire world by just closing that I wonder why it never occurred to them before.
Oh, no. Let me hold you back up on that. I've worked in the Middle East. I worked in strategy in the Middle East. I worked for the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi in his private think tank. We gamed all of this stuff out. One of the reasons why no one really wanted to poke the Iranian bear was because we knew that their only nuclear option was closing down shipping out of the Gulf.
Yeah.
By seizing the Strait of Hormuz, maybe occupying it with IRGC forces, or at least disrupting it to a great degree. So while we may not have actually worked out how stupid an American administration could stumble into this thing, because I know for a fact that America, in the Pentagon, in some little closet somewhere, there have been piles of plans that they also knew that this was the likely outcome of kicking the Iranians. That the Iranians, they don't have to think smart. You know, we sit back and we look at the Americans and think, oh, well, they're so rich, so therefore they're so clever. And the Iranians are so poor and they're so brutal. But, you know, the Iranians operate by street cunning or street smarts, right? So they thought to themselves, okay, look, we can't best the Americans. They've got the technology. You know, the ramshackle armed forces that they have, and they have an armed force that was separate from the IRGC, the very armed force that Donald Trump keeps on saying, oh, you know, we've destroyed the Navy's in the bottom of the Gulf, we've destroyed the Air Force. No one tells the public that much of that stuff was antiquated, and the Iranians wouldn't have been able to do too much with that anyway. Their war fighting wasn't about taking the Americans on, you know, head on head. It was asymmetric. David versus Goliath. Okay, I've got nothing. How can I match Goliath? Oh, you know what? I'll start lobbing missiles at the Gulf states. Oh, you know what? I'll actually, mine the Persian Gulf. Oh, you know, these are things that a third world country can get away with and sustain that level of operations and disrupt everything that we know and love, namely the international economy.
Fascinating. And there's a reconstruction fund of some
$300 million.
$300 million. $300 million. And he says that he's not going to put a penny.
That's right.
No American money. So where is the money going to come from?
Well, you know, I think it's a bit of a con. I mean, this is a con. And again, I don't know how long the ceasefire is going to hold when the Iranians call Trump out on a lot of this stuff. Shite that he's put out for people to consider, especially the Iranians. Because unless the Gulf countries, and the Gulf countries, especially the UAE, because they've been hit so heavily by the Iranians, they've already promised or given some billions to Iran for them to stop hitting them, right? And, I mean, unless now all the Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, then decide, well, okay, to pacify and mollify the Iranians, what we're going to do is we're going to cut them a check of $300 billion, and maybe Donald Trump will have his ugly face stamped on the document, and then we can send it off to the Iranians and everything's going to be sweet. That's wishful thinking, Jeremy. Let me tell you, from living in the Middle East, the Gulf Arabs do not like the Iranians. I don't even think that they respect them all that much. They do see them as their number one threat, right? Like the Europeans see Russia. Well, you know, the Sunni Arabs see the Shiite Iranians in the same kind of manner. Yeah. And anything that they do that weakens them, including handing over $300 million, $1 billion of their money, their oil money, rather than reserving it for their own people, is also a problem for them. Let it not be said, right?
So, and also, you've got no guarantee that that money will be spent on reconstruction. They might buy themselves another navy.
Well, I mean, why would they? I mean, they would flesh out the IRGC for sure and replenish their stocks of drones and ballistic missiles, because they seem to work pretty good.
Yeah, AK-47s.
Yeah, AK-47. Simple, right? Simple. You don't go and fight the giant when you don't have the capacity to fight the giant head to head. You kick him in the nuts.
Yeah. And then run.
Right. And especially a giant as stupid as the one that Donald Trump heads up, right? Because it's just...
When did Persia become Iran?
Oh, wow, that's a good question.
Persia is a much nicer name.
Yes, but the Iranians themselves wanted to change it, and I can't recall the reason. I'd need to consult ChatGPT for that one. I only looked that up only recently, about 3-4 weeks ago. It came across my feed, and I thought, someone's going to ask me that question. I better remember it. And of course, now you've asked me, I don't remember. But it was a relatively recent change. I do know that. Yep, 1935. Yep. So and they there was a pushback because of course Persia had all these. The notion of Persia was old, corrupt, and all that kind of stuff, and they wanted to modernize their country at the time, so they thought that they'd move forward on that.
Shiraz is a
Beautiful city, apparently.
Shiraz,
and the grape is lovely too, and the grape does come from Shiraz.
So that's where it does come from.
It does. It does.
That's fascinating.
Most of our South Australian wines are derived from Iranian grapes.
What about this $100 million that they've announced this morning? We are going to send the Australian government, we the people.
Yep.
They're going to send that to Ukraine.
Yep.
Totaling up, I think it's 1.2 billion that we've given in cash and kind.
Yep.
Is that a good thing?
Okay, so there are two answers. There's the analytical answer. There are three answers. There's the analytical answer, the political answer, and do I think personally it's a good idea? I'll start with that. Yes, I think it's a good idea. Why? Russia is no friend of the West, is no friend of Australia, and, if the Russians win in Ukraine, it's going to change the balance of power in Europe against our major trading partners there, and I think that they need to be stopped. The analytical question would be, well, yes, it's about allocation of resources, and those resources could be well spent at home. And if we spend everything that we spend overseas at home, we'd be in a better position. That's not necessarily true, Jeremy, because you know as well as I do that the local government authorities, state and federal level, do not spend the public coin wisely. Right. So I would rather, $1.2 billion, which is actually a small bit of money in the defense realm, to stop a major change of the balance of power in Europe from happening. Yeah. Then having that $1.2 billion, that same amount of money, being squandered by local politicians on projects that never get off the ground, which is something that we're very good at doing.
Yeah. Green hydrogen comes to mind.
Well, that's exactly right. And then there's the other aspect, and that is from a strategic perspective. If you give your enemy the capacity to take an advantage of you, if it all goes to custard and we actually have to then send our forces to help our European allies in an actual shooting war in Europe, it's going to cost us 100 times more than $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion to help the Ukrainians help themselves. Because, Donald Trump makes this big deal about, allies are all free riders, And okay, so he, said to Zelensky doesn't have the cards. But those Ukrainians know how to fight, and all they need to do is have a little bit of support, a little bit of money on their side, and then all of a sudden things can happen. And as you can see, the front has not only stopped still, so the Russians have no real advantage, but the Ukrainians at the moment are pushing back with a massive counteroffensive. They're actually taking back Ukrainian territory occupied by Russia, as well as bombing Russia and St. Petersburg being Putin's hometown. And that sends a huge political message to disaffected Russians who say, why the hell are we fighting in this stupid war anyway?
Well, it didn't seem to me to be anything that the Russian people decided to do. It was purely a personal decision of Putin.
Well, autocracy is the thing these days. You've got a politician who thinks they're whatever. They make the decision and we go to war and we have to suffer the consequences, and that has to stop. We are now not in the 1930s, not in the 1940s. We have history to learn from. We should not repeat the mistakes of the past, and yet somehow we are repeating the mistakes of the past. Yeah. Go figure.
Gary was telling us earlier that he has a friend who bought a Russian submarine. For $1,000.
You bought one for $1,000 from the Russians,
and it was a nuclear submarine.
No, it was a deal. Well, they did a deal, and my friend insisted it be a diesel one, but the first one that turned up was nuclear.
God.
And they sent it back. This is a true story.
Why didn't they give it to us?
Yeah. We need it more than anyone else does, allegedly.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a true story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I've got a lot of souvenirs at home from that submarine, belts and badges and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, you never have to look for them in the wardrobe.
Yeah.
It's like uranium glass.
Yeah, oh my Lord.
So how did that oligarch thing happen in Russia where after the collapse of the Soviet Union, a lot of people got rich very quickly by doing all sorts of strange deals with things they didn't even own?
Yep.
they just sort of came into possession of. How? I mean,
well, because the entire governing structure of the Soviet Union collapsed. There was nothing preventing the rich and the powerful from basically raping and pillaging the corpse of the Soviet Union until the likes of Putin came in. Because you remember that the tail end of the Soviet Union, they got rid of Gorbachev, and then Boris Yeltsin, the drunk, took over, and he was completely and utterly useless.
it was a bit of fun, though. I mean,
Well, yes, it was a bit of fun, but if you were a Russian or anyone in the former Soviet Union at that time, you would have wanted to slit that guy's throat, quite badly, because.
As opposed to Putin, who's universally loved.
Oh well. Strange.
That's what he said.
Well, actually, this is the strange history of the transition between the Soviet Union and modern Russia under Putin. The early years of Putin we tend to forget because now we know what Putin ended up being: a real grade A war criminal, horrible individual. But we were blind to it initially because once Yeltsin, the drunk, went out of power. Then we had the cool hand look of Vladimir Putin, who was at that time a young former KGB officer who had spent a lot of his career in East Germany. He was sophisticated. He was young. I don't know whether you could say he's good looking. He was always a bit of an ugly guy. But, he had all the things necessary for Russians to then think, we went through this huge period of chaos from the Soviet Union's collapse to now, and now we've got someone that's going to give to the Russian people and stabilize the system. And to be fair, and I say this with gritted teeth, the early part of Putin's career, if you were in post-Soviet Russia, wasn't too bad because he managed to restrain the greed of the oligarchs. He managed to tamp down public expectations of all sorts of weird political confections that were happening in Moscow at the time. You had the communists wanting to make a comeback. You had all sorts of ultranationalists who were, thumping the drum in the Duma, and they were all dangerous for Russia and the Russian people. And Putin kept his nerve and kept everything together. Then somehow, over a period of time, come 2014, he snatched Crimea, and then we started to see the other side of Vladimir Putin, the side that we could not really readily forgive. And then come 2022, he then revealed himself for what he was.
and he's there for life. He doesn't seem to want to have elections every, 3 years, 5 years?
I think 5 years in Russia's case. But no, I don't think he wants to have elections. I think he's probably going to be there until he dies or someone takes him out. And I don't mean take him out to dinner. No. So I think that there's going to be a time where Putin will naturally, well, it's like with Trump, how much can... It's really weird. I saw a picture of Donald Trump the other day. I think he was in Paris with Macron. Yes. And he was sitting at the big table and you could see the animated Europeans. And then you saw the picture of Donald Trump. And I don't know, maybe it's my eyes. Maybe I'm starting to lose my vision or something.
We were talking about it this morning.
Yeah. He looked like he's a man fading away.
Yeah.
He just looked like
he was on his own, wasn't he?
Well, it wasn't even that. He physically doesn't have the capacity to... people were walking away from him on the stage, absolutely. But there was a shot of him sitting at the table where he looked like a blur rather than an individual. And I found that really odd. Now, I think that might be, my own stigmatism, my own biases, whatever. But I just thought it was a very odd observation to have of a picture of someone who keeps on thumping his own chest to say he's the greatest of all time.
I think he's bored with the whole thing.
I think
he's bored with
right.
the Ukraine and
Yep.
other matters as well.
Yep.
I just think he wants to go home and play golf, which is fair enough.
Well, but then he should never have gone into his second term at all, if that was the case.
Well,
his first term was bad enough, Gary. His second term has been an abject disaster for the United States.
No, correct.
And there's no coming back. See, this is the thing that people don't understand. We all want to live in hope and we all want the best for our American buddies. But let me tell you, the things that Trump has done to disrupt American society now cannot be undone. It takes many years to build a society as complex as the American society with all the checks and the balances and the this and the that. And they don't work perfectly, but they work generally enough for people to feel comfortable and relaxed in.
And
when those things start unfolding, they don't come back. They just don't. Because then all of a sudden your system has changed. You can't change it back to where it was.
Have you got your eye on Albania at the moment?
Oh, apparently that's a
the
go-to place.
and...
Yeah.
Isn't that hilarious? Oh, he went on a holiday. That's a nice little spot. We'll take that over.
I saw one of those geopolitical commentators speaking from the balcony of an Albanian hotel overlooking the Mediterranean, and I thought, shit, that's Albania. I thought it was a third world Donald Trump hole country.
Well, they started 2 world wars, didn't they?
You know how you can tell.
I wouldn't upset them.
You know how you can tell a Albanian diplomat? You see him at cocktail parties. He moves from potted palm to potted plant, making use of all the natural cover he possibly can. Can you stay a little while?
Little while, yes, thanks.
Dr. John Bruni from Sage International is with us.
You're listening to the Court of Public Opinion with Jeremy Cordeaux, where the time is 10 a.m. Australian Central Standard Time.
Hey, what's the weather for the weekend gonna be? Will it be hot, cold, rain, snow?
And the weather today in Adelaide, it will be a partly cloudy day.
You may not find us on your TV, because in case you did not know, we're being brought to you by, brought to you on, brought to you by RADI.
Whether you're building your first, second or third home or a seasoned property developer, no one likes extra scary costs. Rossdale Homes get that, which is why they pride themselves on their absolute fixed price guarantee. They believe trust is a must, and with their guarantee and fixed price contract, you'll get no nasty surprises. For peace of mind, trust Rossdale, where only you can change the price. rossdalehomes.com.au, trust is a must. BLD 8104.
Telephone number if you'd like to ring us here in the Court of Public Opinion, 0491 65 68 60. John Bruni's still here, and Professor Plimer has arrived. Gentlemen, now with these two superior...
It's only creditors that call me a gentleman.
Well, superior intellects. Superior intellects all. A friend of mine, Albert Ben Simon, gave me this. He asked at a lunch that I was at, around the table, if anyone knew what a snollygoster was.
Well, I know Albert well. I was invited to the same lunch, but I was in Melbourne for medical treatment, so I had to tell the host I couldn't make it. Albert is full of these wonderful bits of trivia. I have absolutely no idea whatsoever.
A snollygoster, SNOLLYGOSTER.
Sounds like a fairly sugary piece of confection.
But it's a great word, isn't it? A snolly. Yes. You're a snollygoster. And the person wouldn't really know whether to be insulted or charmed. Well, I've got Albert's definition is a clever, unprincipled person, especially a politician, who is driven by personal gain rather than by consistent, respectable principles.
Well, it's something you could use on the floor of Parliament, and the Speaker wouldn't pull you up because they wouldn't know what it meant.
That's the point. I love it. Tony says, Google, Dr. Google here. It's a shrewd, unprincipled person, particularly a politician. It is a 19th century American political slang term used to describe somebody driven by personal gain rather than honourable morals, ethics, and consistent principles. Snollygoster. So I guess somebody made it up as a word. Great word. I'm going to keep that. We're going to keep that, and we're going to use it. Did you see, Professor? Did you happen to see Gina Reinhardt presenting the orange.
Yes, with the model of the caterpillar. Yes, I saw
it
that.
It was big and orange and really looked like it meant business.
Yeah. Well, Jen has come to use a bit more theatre.
Yes.
And is much more public in her political comments than she was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And she, like many people, have just had a gutful. And so she's out there in public.
Well, Gina Reinhardt is a very, very powerful person. But the number of people who in high places are actively, publicly supporting One Nation is really interesting.
Previously, if you announced that you were a supporter, you were pilloried.
Yes.
But now enough people have come out, and such people like Gina Reinhardt, and people are getting brave and saying, well, okay, I've always had that view. I voted that way. Now I'm coming out in public.
Yeah. So it's not so much what she says, because she hasn't changed her line for 30 years. It is simply that people did not want to be set upon and bullied and tormented by others who don't get the story, don't get the picture.
Well, she's also filling a gap in politics, a gap certainly left by Labor and the Greens, but a gap left by the Liberals because they're divided. And a divided party will never, ever win. And we have a group of the moderates in the Liberals who are in the wrong party. They should be in Labor. And the Liberal Party has been going downhill ever since the knifing of Tony Abbott.
Yes.
And unless they get rid of their moderates, they will never be in power again on their own. And the second thing is that the Liberal Party in the past was regarded as the party of the elite, but now they become so snobbish they don't want to even deal with someone like Pauline Hanson.
Yes,
and that is to their demise, that she is a serious person in the political world. You have to treat her seriously, whether you agree or not. It doesn't matter. But you have to treat her seriously, and you have to talk to her, because there is a common enemy, and it's the Labor-Green alliance.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that even in the highest office she would be the same. She would not change.
I think the National Press Club address was interesting, because I think all the lefties in Canberra were waiting for her to trip up.
Yes.
Now, she was reading a prepared text, which was in effect a repetition of everything she'd said before.
Yes.
She didn't read it too well. She stumbled here and there, and so she's showing that she's human. She's not as polished as people who've got their talking points. I thought her whole situation changed as soon as Get Up's wonderfully successful own goal appeared on the screen behind her. And in question time, she showed that she's got some ticker.
Yes.
And when she took on The Guardian, I think a lot of people cheered. When she took on the SBS girl, a lot of people cheered. And she's absolutely right. If you want to watch a television program in Polish, you call it up on the web. You don't need to watch SBS.
Yeah.
Those people who are great supporters of the game, the world game soccer, would be disappointed that if SBS goes. However, someone else will buy the rights.
Yeah.
So she did. One at a time she dispatched him, and it wasn't. She didn't know what questions were coming. I thought the question that Michael de Percy asked was the best question, and that was, what is she going to do about the bureaucrats, the structured bureaucracy, and how can she deal with that?
Yes.
And obviously the answer is that you start chipping away and getting rid of the Quangos and the Human Rights Commission and all these sort of organisations, and you can probably save the country about $200 billion. Well, that is 20% of the debt we have. Now, her view is to get rid of debt. The current Labor government view is, well, who cares? We'll just borrow more money. And it's an eye-watering large amount of interest that we're paying on this. That's $60 billion a year that we're paying on interest. Now, we could waste that on 1.5 snowy 2.0s. I think she has... the bubble is not going to burst. I think she's become a significant political force. I think she will have to talk to other conservative groups, and that includes Family First and others, and there will have to be a deal done with preferences.
Yes, well, she's alluded to the fact that she's quite open to that idea. A loose arrangement of like-minded people.
She's not looking for a coalition.
No.
She's looking for this loose arrangement with guarantees on supply, etc. Yeah. But unless they do something, then we are going to see some of the better members of the coalition lose their seats. And the one I'm thinking of is Matt Canavan. Yeah. He is number 2 on the list. McGrath was he's a backroom moderate who's jockeying for positions all the time. He's number 1 on the ticket. This number 2 could well go to One Nation. It is Queensland after all, and I think to lose a talent like Matt Canavan would be tragic for the Conservative side of politics.
Yeah. But isn't it incredibly important that she has people who have got experience beside her? Because she's going to need a minister for defence, a minister for this, a minister for that. And I don't know that she has at this time access to people with that kind of talent.
Well, we had the same situation with the Labor government in 1972. They'd been 23 years out of power.
Yep.
I had no one who had been a minister.
And it was a shambles.
It was a shambles, but they had the same problem. It's a problem that all parties face, is getting experienced, good candidates. I think she's got enough time to get them. I'm certainly constantly being contacted by people who are putting up their hand to be candidates.
Yes, that's good.
There are some fairly good and interesting people who want to be state and federal candidates.
Yes.
Now, the vetting process is the most important one, because in the past there have been some duds in One Nation, but there are duds in all parties. Just look at all the union hacks who have got themselves into federal parliament. But this is where I think the weakness lies. Who is going to run defence? Who is going to be the minister if she's in power? Yes. I don't think she'll win it outright, so she'll probably have to rely on someone in the Liberal National Party coalition to provide a defence minister, and there are people there who could do that. However, what I do know is that she is taking a lot of advice. She's not using the executives of the party, because she doesn't have any, as you have in the Libs, where the executives actually control the party, and most state and federal executive councils are controlled by the Wets. She doesn't have that. So she is actually actively talking to people. I know she's been talking to people in the gas industry because there were some objections to her policies on it. I noticed at the National Press Club she'd changed her view a little bit on gas. And I know that she'd been talking to people, the major gas producers. So she is taking advice, and when she says she listens, it's actually true, because I've seen that happening.
Yeah.
And in one of the companies I'm a director of, where we produce 15% of Eastern Australia's gas, coal seam gas, she's actually a couple of times sought out the CEO for opinions.
Yes.
Now, Labor has never done that. The Nats have never done that. The Libs have never done that.
And they're trying to say things, disparaging things about her taking advice from Gina Reinhardt. It's far better to take advice from a clever, successful woman than it is Karl Marx, I would have thought.
Well, yes, very much so. And the second thing is there's a group of people out there who have built things, and Mrs. Reinhardt started with massive debt left by her father, and she built Australia's largest private company. Yeah. Out of that, of course, she's become very wealthy, and that is absolutely fantastic, because if you're wealthy, you spend the money, and that creates jobs. Now, on one hand, we've got a Labor government at present that is trying to penalise those people who've got out of bed early, who've actually had some savings, who've invested in maybe a second house to finance their retirement, and to shift that money to people who may be in need, but it might be due to their own laziness, or the fact that they haven't sought to actually chase a job. If you can't get a job in Melbourne, then go to Kalgoorlie. Now, I had that once with a former student of mine. He had finished up his honours degree at the University of Melbourne, and he said, what do I do? It's a slump in the market. I can't get a job. I said, hitchhike to Kalgoorlie, Go to the front bar of the Palace Hotel, drink there and talk to people. And you'll get a job working as a field hand or a drilling assistant or whatever, which is really good training. And when the slump finishes, you'll be first in line.
Yes.
And he took that advice and he did it. And I've often thought of him. And a couple of years ago, I was at a function in Perth and he came up to me. I didn't recognise him from Adam. And he said, look, I just wanted to thank you for the advice you gave me. He's CEO of a mining company. So
God bless him.
Yeah, well, this is what people have to do. If there's no job in Melbourne or Sydney, get on your bike.
Yes.
There are jobs in rural areas. There are people who actually don't want to work, and there are plenty of jobs for people who do want to work.
Yeah. We've got to find someone who understands reward and incentive. These things have been stripped from our horizon over time.
Well, the reward is for the government, and that's called bracket creep. As soon as you start to inch your way ahead, you get into another tax bracket and you lose a lot of what you've earned. And so for many people, it makes it very difficult for them to get ahead. The second thing is we used to have a zone allowance for people working in rural and remote areas. I remember I was on Zone B for quite a while, and that made it worthwhile for you to actually live in rural Australia and work.
Reward and incentive, not fear and force. Caroline came running in this morning saying, you're not going to believe this, you're not going to believe this. Gina Reinhardt, no, not Gina, Pauline Hanson has been taking advice from Kyle Sandilands. Have you heard that?
I read that in today's Australian and I had to take a deep breath and think, well, in terms of media and promotion,
you would know if that was true.
Well, I don't know if it's true. I've read it in today's Australian. However,
Ian is a great fan of Kyle Sandilands, by the way.
Well, I'm trying to hint that I'm not, and I'm trying to hint that there are far better people around that could do this. And I know that she has been listening to other people. The brains behind Pauline Hanson, the strategy, is done by James Ashby. I mean, fire the liar. I mean, that was a line that came out of Peter Credlin's mouth, but James Ashby picked it up. The next day it was running, and it gained One Nation more than $4 million. Now, he is a master political strategist. He did stand for the seat of, up near Rockhampton. He stood for a state seat. He may well stand for a federal seat, and the LNP seat of Michelle Landry, I think, is the one that's the most likely one because it's near where he lives and it's not well held. The next seat of Flynn, that's held by Colin Boyce, and Colin's been talking off and on about moving into One Nation, and I've had quite a bit to do with him when he was cementing his views on climate, and he approached me. He's in a cattle and mining area. He could sit either with the Nats or with One Nation.
Have you heard anything about the fact that as this Fire the Liar, this Fire the Liar business gathers momentum, maybe even bumper stickers, I don't know, but it's a wonderful election slogan. Have you heard anything about the fact that Albo will stand down probably within the next month or two?
No, I haven't, and I don't think he could. His ego. He's a small person who's been in the back room for years. He's a hatchet man. He's a hatchet in terms of internal party politics. He's got to the top job by being a hatchet man. His ego is incommensurate with his achievements, and I don't think he would ever consider it. You've only got to look at his counterpart in the UK. I mean, the Prime Minister in the UK should be dead and buried, but he's still hanging on. I mean, it's incredible.
Yes. For the good of the nation, I would think.
Apparently, yes.
He's a political zombie, our Keir. He's a political zombie. Yes. He's waiting for the axe to fall on him, I think.
We're living in really interesting times at present. I think
all over the world.
With President Trump, with conservatives in Argentina, Hungary, Italy. And if you look at the Italian Prime Minister,
she's good.
She started her campaign saying, look, I'm a mother, I work, I'm a Christian, and she got mocked for that.
Oh, you
and her
would?
vote
Yes,
took off.
But
and that's the same with Pauline Hanson.
Look, I will say, and I'm honestly, I don't know whether we can go that far, but of all the people from the so-called populist right internationally that has really impressed me, it's Giorgia Meloni. I do not understand how she could. She came in on a populist right ticket, and when she got into power, she became so pragmatic, and you know, in a way that normal conservatives would actually go, yeah, I get it, you know, and so I get very excited because this is the first time in my lifetime that I've seen Italian politics go in a way that I actually quite appreciate and enjoy.
Well, Italy, of course, is a man's country, and so for her to do that is a major achievement.
Oh, it is. It is.
I think we've also seen it with Margaret Thatcher. I think we're currently seeing it with Nigel Farage. He is rocking the establishment, and so I think across the world we're getting quite a lot of populist politics on the right start to appear. Now, that gets criticised because, it's populism. Well, how the hell do you actually get a majority to win a seat unless it's a popular?
Gentlemen, let me just say, I mean, what strikes me as odd is that I thought in my friend group, and I've got a lot of people who would be on the left of centre, I would imagine, and, you know, when we sit down and we talk about populism and right-wing conservatism and where it's all going, when the name Meloni comes up, everyone, including my left-wing colleagues, say, wow, she's just amazing. I wish we had a candidate on the left like Giorgia Meloni. So, I mean, I suppose it really depends on how you position yourself to make good on becoming something like her. Now, I interviewed a dear friend of mine a couple of weeks back, and, you know, of course, it was just as John Healey resigned from Keir Starmer's mob as Defence Secretary. Yeah. And, you know, when we were having this discussion, he did say that Farage, what people don't get about Farage, and I'd like Ian's take on this, is that Farage portrays himself to be a right-wing populist, but in actual fact, his values are very conservative. You know, he's just a conservative guy dressed up to be a lot bigger than he actually is. And he didn't mean that in a critical way. He actually meant that in a very positive way. So I'm wondering what Ian thinks about Farage if he does take over at some point. Will he be something different from Meloni, or will he represent a UK version of that? Because if you can then get into power and then pragmatically rule your country, that's good. Because that way you win friends and influence people across the board, and you've got a very good likelihood of being able to build the coalitions necessary to stay in for a long time and affect structural change. Yeah. Well, but if you're a flash in the pan, if you're a populist flash in the pan, you go in there, you throw your dice in and go, well, you know, I'm going to do this, go do that. I mean, you become then a Whitlam, if you will, because again, you know, the one thing that we didn't end with is that Whitlam failed catastrophically. I mean, it wasn't just he failed catastrophically. He was turfed out by the Governor-General. Yeah. I mean, that was a political scandal of the first order. Yeah. I would, you know, and for all the things that we were saying before, you know, he came in with, you know, from a lengthy period of time where he didn't have, you know, the experience and the skill base necessary to administer. He didn't get the right people in his cabinet and all that kind of stuff. So we have to be careful where we see how the resistance, the right-wing resistance goes, I think, you know, because otherwise you're pretty dead set on being able to repeat some of the left-wing catastrophes as a consequence if you don't get
just a couple of comments. Whitlam didn't control policy. It was the 36 faceless men.
Yeah.
And he then had to put that policy into action, and he was representing the unions, the same as our current Prime Minister, and the unions, if we talk about gas, I'll come back to that, but the unions are actually driving the Labor Party policy. Pauline Hanson demonstrated that she doesn't have that much policy yet, and she's cementing it. Through conservative eyes. Now, Nigel Farage was exactly the same. I first met him in 1981 We used to sell metal to him that we mined at Broken Hill, put through our Port Pirie smelter, and he was a metals trader in the city. He has had commercial experience. He's actually been buying and selling using his own money, and he is very much a true conservative. I introduced him to Mrs. Reinhardt on the 6th of December 2025 at Claridge's. Now, for him to get from the footpath into the table we're having lunch at took him half an hour. The number of people that mobbed him. Yep. So not only is he populist, he knows which buttons to push, and he's a true conservative. I think Pauline Hanson now is growing a lot. That growth is going to depend upon who she talks to and the advice. But she is a true conservative also. She's not tied to the unions, unlike the Libs and the Nats, who have a federal executive who control policy. She's not tied to them. And so we might actually, if she can pull it off, she might be in a position where she can control policy in some sort of alliance with the Libs and the Nats. Yep. I see the Libs and the Nats continue to go down in their vote. The Nats, I think, have to be very careful they don't face extinction. In some blue ribbon seats they will win, but their numbers will certainly go down. And I think the Libs are facing the same. The Libs,
but even with Tony Abbott in charge, I mean,
he's got to deal with his executive, who are dominantly wets, and he's very much aware of that. And the second thing is he's got to deal with the parliamentary parties, who are dominantly wet. So even though he is a true conservative and his heart's in the right place, he's dealing with people who are in the wrong party. And why is it that Turnbull is still a member of the Liberal Party? Why hasn't he been chucked out? So we have and poor Tony here does have a very difficult job to sort out the Liberal Party, but at present they stand for nothing.
But wasn't he the guy who put Pauline Hanson in jail?
Yes. And I mean, Tony's a good God-fearing Christian, but it's Pauline who's forgiven him. That's the irony.
That's not very Christian of him.
Well, no, look, politics is the game, and the allegation was that she'd broken the electoral law, and he pursued that to get rid of a rival. And also there was a bit of a spite in it because she was formerly in the Liberal Party and they had to kick her out. So if anyone threatens a Liberal Party member, all they need to say is, well, why is Malcolm Turnbull still a member? And you could make a wonderful song and dance in public about the fact that Turnbull is still a member, yet people who are conservatives are being threatened with expulsion. So I think we've got a lot more shaking out to do. I don't think Labor would dare call an early election. I think Albo is fairly dim-witted, and I think he's waiting till all the fuss goes away. The problem is that the momentum will build. And now that Pauline Hanson is being savagely attacked, I think it shows that she's a real force. For example, you had that dopey Channel 9 journalist in Western Australia claim that there was something wrong with her jet. Now, the plane that Mrs. Reinhardt gave to Pauline Hanson is not a jet. So the basic facts the journalists don't even get right. All they want to do is attack her.
Yeah, but also spread misinformation.
Of course.
Because the thing is that as soon as you actually put it out there, it's hard then for people to sit back who've heard it to think, oh, well, she's got a jet, because it becomes
it'll be front page and the apology will be page 11, yes.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And 1 column inch. And that's the way it works. Yeah. And so I think there are huge challenges ahead. I don't know what the Labor government's going to do. They've had to backpedal on their budget. They'll even have to backpedal some more. I think that we have probably the weakest government we've had in my voting life. I think Treasurer Jim Chalmers is as bad or worse than Jim Cairns. I think the Prime Minister is worse than Gough Whitlam, and he doesn't have anyone on the benches to support him. When you look at Katie Gallagher, you wouldn't give her a job as a librarian. She is just hopeless. And you look at our senator here in South Australia, she is an absolute embarrassment. to have that woman on the international stage, I think shows what a trivial view we take of our international friends.
But it's interesting. I made another observation the other day while I was listening to ABC News Radio. And that
Shame on you.
Yeah, well, but sometimes you come up with these little nuggets as you listen to the opposition, right? And, one of them was when you hear people who are against someone like Pauline Hanson try to defend the system, they're often, they defend the system like a third or fourth rate bureaucrat would defend a system. There's no love in it. There's no passion in it. They don't give a toss whether or
not at all.
People can survive, or make the next payment on the mortgage. They have absolutely a disconnected view of everything. They are disconnected. They're part of a so-called governing elite, and they speak as though, and I had the observation that if these people could communicate the defence of the system that is so thoroughly buggered in a way that would resonate with Australians, perhaps people like Pauline Hanson wouldn't be.
Well, this is why I argue we should put Treasure in say, Gladstone, Department of Finance in Port Hedland. That's where we generate our wealth. Aboriginal Affairs in Port Hedland. That'll give them a touch of reality. Department of Ageing, in an ageing society like Broken Hill. Department of Resources, say in Mount Isa, Department of Water, you put them at Wilcannia, and once every 10 years you might see a bit of a flood, maybe every 15 years. Get these people to actually understand reality. But we now have people who are fourth-generation Canberrians who have no idea about how the average person has to struggle, the sacrifices they have to make, and the average person out there cannot afford to have a second car, cannot afford to go to Bali for a holiday, cannot afford to drink wine. They're pushing it every time they go to Woolies or Coles or Aldi or whatever supermarket they go to. They're pushing it to stay afloat. And it's a weekly stress.
Hang on, gentlemen. Dr. Kevin Donnelly's going to join us in a couple of seconds. He's written a book. You guys might have something interesting to talk to him about.
Well, I've met Kevin a number of times, so I wouldn't mind saying hello before I disappear.
His name, the name of the book is Wake Up to Woke. So we've got something in print that we can hold above our heads and say this is what everybody should be reading. We'll come back and do that in a minute. Now, our sponsors are Rossdale Homes. Whether you are building your first, your second, or maybe your third, or you're a seasoned property developer, it doesn't make any difference. You all want the same thing. You don't want any scary costs being chucked at you at the last moment. Rossdale Homes, they have a slogan which they've had for, maybe 30, 40 years. Trust is a must. They give you a guaranteed fixed price. A fixed price guarantee. Only you can change the price. So if trust is a must in your world, and it is in most of our worlds, peace of mind, trust is a must. You can only change the price, nobody else. rossdalehomes.com.au. Check it out. And you can listen to the radio, or you can be on the radio. 0491 65 68 60 is the telephone number. Dr. Kevin Donnelly. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you for joining us.
Willing to have a chat.
Thank you. Dr. John Bruni is here, and Professor Plimer is with us as well, and we're at the dining room table. Congratulations on the book, Doctor.
Well, it was very timely. I started thinking about this, writing about it some years ago in terms of what was happening around the world, not just Australia. There's been a significant cultural shift in terms of the broader culture, not just politics. But, it was very timely. I was very happy to have it published about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I will give the address. I guess it'll be Booktopia and all of the other regular places that you can buy books, but people can go to your website and do it as well?
Yeah, so my webpage is one word, kevindonnelly.com.au. And I must admit, I've seen it advertised for $30, $40, which is really exorbitant. I'm selling it with postage for $32.
Okay, bargain. Now, the article that appeared in the Australian that you very kindly sent me
It was the Daily Telegraph.
Oh, it was the Daily Telegraph. Okay. You say, a rock star welcome in Perth, $4 million raised in a single fundraising drive, and opinion polls putting the party ahead of both majors suggest that One Nation is now a force to be reckoned with. And I think Professor Plimer agrees with that 100%.
Yes, very much so. I think we've had a fundamental shift politically in Australia and also worldwide. We were talking earlier about Italy and Nigel Farage in the UK. I think there's been a very significant change. It's a very exciting time to be alive.
Most definitely. And many years ago, I read a book by Roger Scruton. You might know him.
Yes,
a very famous English cultural critic and philosopher. And he wrote a book some years ago, just after Brexit, when the United Kingdom voted to leave the European Union. And he made the point then as to why this was happening, this cultural shift. And it happened in America when Trump was first elected. Also, the rise of centre-right parties in Europe, even closer to home. The vote against the Indigenous voice to Parliament showed, it's further evidence. And there's an American academic, Breitbart, I think his name is.
Breitbart, yes, Andrew Breitbart, yes.
That's the one. He argued culture is upstream of politics. And what he meant by that is that what's happening day to day, year to year, in terms of the political scene, it doesn't happen by accident. It's actually very much influenced by the broader culture. And in the book, I make the point that when I was at university, Gough Whitlam was elected, and the marketing, the advertising was very catchy. It's time.
Yeah.
And it was after the conservative Robert Menzies era, when people came back from the war, and really the focus was on home, community, family, working. It was a more conservative time with Robert Menzies. And then Gough Whitlam really heralded a cultural shift. Now, whether it was The Female Eunuch by Germaine Greer, the Vietnam moratoriums, the no divorce, the new act about divorce, there was a lot of cultural change, the hippie movement, make love, not war. And I think people took that literally back then.
Yeah.
And what's happening now is that there's a shift back to a more conservative culture. And that's why it's happened in America, Europe, and now Australia.
And do you think fire the liar, is that phrase equivalent to its time?
I don't think it will be as powerful, and that's just my view. And we've got 2 years to go before the election,
yes,
obviously.
A long time.
And even reading the papers today and seeing the commentary on the ABC, which I rarely listen to, after Pauline Hanson's speech at in Canberra, there will be a lot of people, a lot of media, a lot of self-interested groups who will spend the next 2 years tearing her down and trying to diminish her stature in terms of really getting people to think that she's not up to it, that she's populist. This is the word they use. Anything they don't like, they say it's populist. So they'll 2 years is a long time to wait.
Well, we saw that in Question Time, and I thought you handled that very well. We had The Guardian and the SBS and Michelle Grattan have a go at her. And I thought she handled that very, very well. And as for populist, how the hell do you get elected to Parliament unless you get a majority of the votes? It's beyond me.
It's weird. But she showed great courage to even show up there. I know she hadn't done that she hadn't been a guest at the...
Well, she hadn't been invited. That's why.
Well, yeah, that'd be right, for 30 years. But she showed great courage knowing that the deck was well and truly stacked against her.
Oh, definitely. And the other point I made on radio the other day, people have known Pauline Hanson for over, 30 years?
Mm-hmm.
And when she was disendorsed as a Liberal candidate for her views about immigration. And, it's ironic that she went to jail for a period, but she's never changed in a sense. She's not a retail politician, as I call
You know what
them.
you're getting.
Absolutely. She's consistent. She's authentic.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of politicians, if you look at Albanese, certainly Daniel Andrews in Victoria, they've never had a real job. They've gone from student activism, university activism, into a trade union or a movement, then work for a Labor Party. They're apparatchiks, as I call them. Whereas Pauline Hanson, she makes mistakes. She's not the most articulate person out there, but people identify with that. People are fed up. Yeah. And this is the point Roger Scruton makes. People are fed up with the elites. He talks about oikophilia, people who are global in their outlook, who are multicultural, diversity indifference, who, as you said before, Ian, can afford to go to Bali or Phuket, can have 2 or 3 cars, can eat at 5-star restaurants. People are fed up with that elite. And the Teals illustrate that perfectly. People want community, family, kinship, and a sense of patriotism.
I had dinner the other night with Michael Kroger and a few others, and Michael made a very interesting point, and I have to check it, but he argued that since the formation of the Australian Labor Party in the Depression of 1891, that not one treasurer or prime minister from the Labor ranks has ever started and operated their own business. And I think that's what you're up against. You're up against people who in the Labor Party have no idea about how you convert an idea into paying tax.
The real world, in other words.
Yes, and it's those taxes that pay the bureaucrats. And then on the Liberal side, he was arguing that they have a problem with snobbery, that they look down on the average punter. They look down on Pauline Hanson because she's not articulate, because she doesn't have her 2 talking points, and she stumbles and trips over things, which everyone does. And I thought they were 2 very good points. I'm going to check him on the first one, but he's a man who's a lifelong Liberal, and he sees the danger of Pauline Hanson.
Yeah, I mean, my view on that's quite right, Ian. The other point, and I was the Chief of Staff to Kevin Andrews for a year and a half under the Howard government, and one reason I left was that most of the people working there as staffers were young, brash, apparatchiks, on the make, trying to get to aggrandise themselves. They hadn't had they've gone straight from university, often into being in a politician's office. They're so detached from the real world that, as I say to my friends at the Victoria Market, I'd like to get some of these politicians and staffers into, the delicatessen or the seafood shop, make them work for a month, get up at 4 a.m, work 12, 14 hours, balance the budget at the end of the week, and most of them would never be able to cope.
Yeah. Not to speak of even meeting a payroll and having that responsibility around your neck. Now, we can change the government, but how do we change the entrenched, every department, every school, the media? You look. How would you unravel all of that woke?
That's a very good question. I mean, I'll go back a step. Over the last 11 years, I was at the university, the Catholic University, where I was given the freedom for most of the time to do research. And what Antonioni Gramsci, the Marxist in Italy during the 30s, called cultural hegemony, he argued back then that the way the bourgeoisie or capitalism dominated and controlled people was to take over the institutions. Now, later on, the German activist in the 1960s, Rudi Dutschke, argued the same point. And he made famous the expression, the long march through the institutions. So you're right, whether it's intermediate organisations, trade unions, media, even the church, family, the cultural left or cultural Marxism has been very, very successful in taking that long march. Now, one thing, and I got to know Bob Santa Maria very well, God bless him, back in the day, and what Bob Santa Maria said to me, Kevin, we have to be aware of how the communists and the socialists, how they work. They have short-term, medium-term, long-term strategies. And that's one thing conservatives have not been able to do over the last 20, 30 years, and especially the Liberal Party under people like Malcolm Trumbull, as they called him in Washington, Malcolm Turnbull. And the Liberals have not been good at that, and that's why I get back to Roger Scruton. He says what we should be fighting, the battle of ideas, as John Howard called it, and we should be championing what he calls cultural conservatism.
Isn't Pauline Hanson trying to do that?
I think, almost instinctively. Almost instinctively. I mean, because of her life, her background, her career, if I can call it, she's been in politics a fair while, but she understands retail, how to run a fish and chip shop. I think she has that instinctive feeling, and it's interesting, again, Roger Scruton makes the point that unlike the elites, who suffer from what he calls oikophilia, a Greek word apparently, unlike those, people like Pauline Hanson, and most people generally are, he would argue, inherently conservative. Most people, when you sort of get down to brass tacks, they want a sense of family. Most men and women still identify as men and women. Most, enjoy having their family around, kinship, community, local community. We need a sense of identity, a sense of being grounded in something rewarding and fulfilling. And that's where Pauline Hanson almost instinctively has captured that. And I'm sure there'll be people over the next couple of years advising her on how to put this into a broader picture.
We were talking about that a bit earlier, and I know a number of the people advising her. I also, I knew Malcolm Roberts before he was in politics, when he was a mining engineer, and I said to him once, look, all this problem about identifying as a male or female, you can measure it. And engineers are about measuring. I said, look, you can measure an XY or an XX chromosome. End of story.
That's right.
Every single cell in your body is either an XX or an XY. You can measure it. And if you put that argument, it's irrefutable.
No, you're right. And I mean, I'm a Catholic. I also argue it's God-given. The Bible tells us, man and woman, he created them. But the other point here, if we're talking about that topic, parents are beginning to understand, even in kindergarten, certainly in primary and secondary school, under the Safe Schools program, which was a gender fluidity program put together in part by Ros Ward from La Trobe University. She admitted at a Marxist conference some years ago, it was not about stopping bullying. It was about a glorious cultural revolution where young children, students could self-identify anywhere on a dynamic and, LGBTQI plus scale. People are starting to wake up that when their son or daughter comes home in grade 3 or year 3, and I had my niece tell me over a year ago, her little boy came home and he said, Mum, am I a boy? And so this propaganda, this indoctrination, it's incredibly widespread. Climate alarmism, and Ian knows more about this than anyone, they've been teaching that Labor and Liberal governments over the last 30, 40 years. And I'll never forget in Victoria, under a Liberal Minister for Education, every school got a free copy of the Al Gore video. So whether it's climate alarmism, gender fluidity, multiculturalism, diversity and difference, people are thankfully flocking to One Nation because that's what they believe. That's what it's like. You're in the desert and you suddenly found a well and you're going to be able to get some fresh, clean water.
And a dead kangaroo down the bottom of the well.
I hope not.
Kevin, if you don't mind me just interjecting here, I mean, we were having a very robust conversation before we had you on, and a lot of the stuff that we spoke of was very relatable in terms of what you're saying today. But how much is the likes of having someone like a Pauline Hanson enough to shake the system up? Because I tend to think a little bit like Ian Plimer. I think that there is a Canberra elite, there is a bipartisan consensus, an elite consensus, if you will, in terms of where modern Australia is going. That even if Pauline Hanson were elected as Prime Minister tomorrow, it would not be enough because those same people running policy would be still in Canberra. Power is still concentrated. Cultural power as well as political power, or policy power, if you will, is concentrated in Canberra. Now, if you broke up those great bureaucracies that we've known and loved for so long and spread them all over Australia, where the bureaucrats had to go and interact with the people, then perhaps we'll have a different form of governance altogether. But I don't see that happen. And unless and until that happens, we're really stuck with a problem that ain't going to go away just because we colour our Prime Minister differently.
No, you're correct. And as I said, I was Chief of Staff for a while in Canberra, and I knew firsthand, well, I saw it firsthand, how powerful the public servants are.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I remember David Kemp, when he was Education Minister, introduced a very good program called Discovering Democracy some years ago. And it was excellent. I mean, but once it left the Prime Minister, once it left his office, went to the public servants, went to the curriculum body, and they're all around Australia, these curriculum bodies. It was diluted, it was dumbed down, and you would be lucky to actually see it in a school because most of the teachers, as we know, are cultural left, so they didn't want anything to do with it. But that's why, and it's interesting, we might talk about it at a later date. I've just written a report for the Menzies Research Centre about the national curriculum, the Australian curriculum. And one of the points I make is abolish ACARA, abolish the national body responsible for the curriculum and for testing. When you go back to Sir Robert Menzies, there was no education department in Canberra because, as we know, school education is the responsibility of the states and territories. So what I would do, and this is what I know best in terms of my background, I would abolish the national bodies that are in Canberra, whether it's AITSL, Aero, ACARA, get rid of them all. And we have in all the states and territories equivalent bodies. Now, what I would then do if I was Pauline Hanson and she was Prime Minister, I would get 10 or 12 people to benchmark what was happening in the states and territories, benchmark it internationally, and actually say to these people, well, look, here's the next school agreement. If you want to spend, as you do, billions of dollars on education, this is what you're going to have to do. And if you don't do it, there's no money.
She hinted at that in her address to the National Press Club when she spoke about health. The same argument applies to health. Canberra finances the state hospitals, but it has this huge health bureaucracy, the same as it's got the huge education bureaucracy.
Duplication.
So I think she's aware of this.
Yeah, and the other point, I was involved in with the teacher union in Victoria many years ago when I first started, and there's no denying the fact that the Australian Education Union for years has been an advocate of what I call cultural Marxism or cultural left ideology, strong supporter of the Labor Party, federal and state. The other question here is, what do you do with a teaching force which is not able to, and either academically or in terms of their own prejudices, able to be objective and balanced? And what I have been doing the last 5 years is organise parents and teachers starting their own schools. We're very lucky in Australia compared to internationally that we've long accepted, and even though people want to change it, we've long accepted that you can have a non-government school system and a government. And the non-government is around about 38% of student enrolments, with the greatest growth in Christian low-fee paying schools. But I'm a great believer in autonomy, in subsidiarity, and I'd be saying one other way to address the issue, get rid of the bureaucracy, but focus on subsidiarity, autonomy, and because parents and teachers around Australia are fed up with our dumbed down curriculum, our politically correct curriculum. So if you can have that sense of subsidiarity, I think that's another point.
Well, we can add also universities to that. I have given thousands of lectures at various universities that have employed me and elsewhere, and I often get invited to give talks. The very best crowd that I ever spoke to in a university that doesn't teach any science was actually Campion College. And that is a private university. That group of students that I had asked the most penetrating questions I've ever had in my life. These kids had been taught to be critical thinkers. They had a knowledge of history. They had a knowledge of the classics, and it really impressed me. And so I think we've got to start forgetting about overfunding the number of universities we have, probably reducing the number, allowing private universities to flourish, and we will end up a better society.
No, I know Campion quite well. I spoke there some years ago, and many of the graduates come and speak at the conferences I organise. So they're shaped in Sydney, Campion College, much like a liberal arts college in America. And there's been a huge explosion in America and Europe of colleges and universities dedicated to a curriculum that I call academically rigorous, morally grounded, and emotionally and spiritually enriching.
I would agree.
And a lot of it goes back to a classical education, back to the ancient Greeks and Romans, but also a liberal education, as argued by Matthew Arnold all those years ago and Michael Oakeshott, an education. And this is what's so vital. We need to educate young people about the conversation. Oakeshott calls it a conversation of mankind that's been going on for hundreds and thousands of years. So to enter that conversation, you need to know something. You can't make it up. You can't find it on Dr. Google. You can't wake up one morning. You actually have to read and talk and think. And once you get that groundwork, you're able to contribute to the conversation, whether it's art, music, literature, mathematics, science. So Campion's a great place. Another one in Sydney is Alpha Crucis. They're doing good work as well. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of freeing it up. And also the other question, which is a hard one, teacher training, as I called it. Most departments of teacher training are really, I'd abolish them as well.
Well, I think that started when we had faculties of education appear in universities, and they basically took the place of the old teachers' colleges. So at one time, someone might have been an expert in history or chemistry and then done their dip ed. Now they do a degree, get a degree in education, which is probably worth 3 parts of nothing. Apropos what you were saying about Campion and the other colleges, those kids learn Latin, they learn Greek, they learn the classics, they learn how to argue. And the key point that I see, having been in universities for a long period of time, is that students today cannot commit a very large body of knowledge to memory. They have to rely on AI or Dr. Google. You, like me, probably test it all the time, and it's wrong. It's wrong in fact.
But it's also wrong in context, though, Ian.
It's wrong in context. Yeah. Just look yourself up. They'll say lovely things about you.
Yeah, well,
and,
not really, but yeah.
with the private universities, there are some areas they cannot get into. Medical research, certain research in science, it's just too expensive. And so I rather like the idea of someone having a liberal arts degree before they then go on to do engineering or medicine or vet or one of the vocational subjects.
I absolutely agree with
Just
that.
if I could interrupt, sorry.
Yeah.
About 30, 40 years ago, Leonie Kramer, who was fighting this fight all those years ago, introduced me to the then head of BHP in Melbourne. I think the office was back then. And I had a long chat to him about tertiary standards and qualifications. And as I was leaving, I said, well, look, if you have to employ someone that you want to train, what do you look for? Engineering degree, science degree? He looked at me and said, no, Latin, Greek, classical education, because they've been taught to think, they're articulate, they're able to structure a sentence, they're able to read 400 or 500 pages and understand what it's about. So he said, we can train them in-house. But if they don't have that intelligence and that reservoir of knowledge, then we're in trouble.
But Kevin, oh, sorry, Ian, just one thing that I've got to say, because there's a real bee in my bonnet at this point in time, and that is, with regard to the emphasis that government puts on education, they don't put any emphasis on the classics. They don't want a liberal arts degree at any level. I mean, just look at what they've done to the University of Adelaide down here. They've closed down humanities, social sciences. What's that? It's all about STEM now. And I find that a lot of that insipid stuff that we've been talking about from a political and cultural perspective from the so-called cultural Marxists, they want to denude us of that capacity to think that only the classical education will give us and substitute it for STEM topics only, which then leads us to another problem, and that is when you look at the Silicon Valley bros who are running around doing whatever they're doing, they're very good at what they do and they may have STEM down pat, but they are divorced from the reality of human life. They don't know how to implement their technologies in a way that most ordinary people could, because they don't have the background of complex thinking that is required in a liberal arts degree, a properly run one.
Let me just add to that.
Oh, you did right. And just on that point, about 30 years ago, I wrote an article for The Australian where I looked at where the executives in Silicon Valley sent their children. And they sent them to Steiner, Montessori, classical schools. They didn't have computers at home because they realised the danger, I think, of the new technology. The other point here, and I taught English and literature in schools for 18 years, and when I went back and did the doctorate, the other problem here that people are not aware of, whenever you say, well, they don't do classical literature anymore, they'll say, the bad people will say, well, look, we read Shakespeare, we read Jane Austen or Patrick White or David Malouf, or we do poetry, Wordsworth, Keats. What people don't understand, and this goes back to Derrida and Foucault and the French movement, deconstruction and postmodernism, what they do is deconstruct and critique all of this literature in terms of power relationships. Because one of the things, and it goes back to the Frankfurt School in Germany, when the cultural Marxists realised there would never be a physical revolution, the way to win would be to take the Long March. They argued, and they still do, the sociology of education had a profound impact around the Western world. They argue there is no such thing as objective knowledge, impartial knowledge. Yes. Knowledge is a tool used by the bourgeoisie and the capitalist class to subjugate the other.
When I did an undergraduate degree, a science degree, we were forced to study some arts subjects. The very best subject I ever did in all of my university career was English literature. And we had a lecturer called Leonie Kramer. And every week we were forced to read a book and to critically evaluate it. we were taught critical thinking, not through my science subjects, but through English literature. She was very rigorous. We also had to do a language. The choice was simple, Russian or German. And I think to actually have an understanding of literature as a scientist is extremely important, because you don't get taught critical thinking at all.
Didn't Leonie Kramer go on to run the ABC?
Yes, and also Chancellor of Sydney University. She has had a brilliant career.
I wonder what she made of the ABC.
That's a good question.
Now, isn't the problem, even if Pauline wins in whatever arrangement the right-hand side of politics can make, she's got 3 years. Now, the entrenched public servants of Canberra will give her a hell of a time.
They will.
And how is a hostile public service? And she's got 3 years to unravel all of this stuff that has been going on for so long. It's an impossible job.
She should sit down and binge watch Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister. And then she will understand that she has to take them on head on.
Yeah.
And as I've mentioned on this program a number of times, we probably need to decentralise the public service. And that breaks up the power structure. It would also... if you're in the Department of Trade and end up in Gladstone, which is where we earn a lot of the country's money.
Can you see their faces?
Well, I can see them resigning, which solves the second problem.
Yeah.
So,
the other point here, sorry to interrupt, I think it was Graham Richardson who said if you're going to go to the races and back a horse, self-interest will always win. And I can remember when I did a lot of work when Jeff Kennett, when they were in opposition, Don Hayward was the education minister, and that's where I met John Roskin, who is now head of
the Campion, yes.
By the way.
Yes.
Back in what happened, I think the election result was on the Friday. All the top public servants had to vacate their office by Sunday, and all the Kennett appointees moved in on Monday. So you need a fundamental change, a fundamental shift. But then again, that's a problem, because I was talking to some shadow education ministers, I won't say who, and they said to me, Kevin, one of the problems is if we win government, who do we trust?
Well, Campbell Newman had the problem of getting rid of 16,000 public servants, and he ended up as a one-term premier. Yeah. So there's a danger in doing that.
They'll be out to get her. They'll be out to get her from day one. They're probably out to get her right now. Yes,
they're out now.
Yes. We've got to move on. But, Doctor, thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on the book, Wake Up to Woke. Now, how do we get a copy of it?
Yeah, the best place is on my webpage. One word, Kevin Donnelly.
Right.
KevinDonnelly.com.au.
Wonderful. And so on that website, it'll be there how much to pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I've got it here. It's a paperback, $24 plus postage. Please select a delivery destination, obviously. I will be buying a copy.
Yeah, no, me too. But when you think about the fact that they want to get hold of our kids, now it's 3 years old.
It's actually, I would make it compulsory reading for every student, George Orwell, 1984, and everybody refers to it.
Yeah.
But
Animal Farm.
But it goes back to Gramsci as well. Gramsci made the point back then that socialism would be the religion.
Along with climate change, perhaps?
That would destroy Christianity. That would destroy Christianity.
Yes.
And what the cultural Marxists have done, as in 1984, is to destroy any sense of the spiritual or the transcendent, destroy the family, the heteronormative family, as they call it, and to indoctrinate and brainwash children. So it's all about groupthink and mind control. That's why, as you've said a couple of times, they don't want young people to be independently minded or able to think critically, because it's like Alice in Wonderland. If you realise how bizarre things are at the moment, then you wouldn't follow it, you wouldn't support it.
Thanks, Doctor.
My pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Cheerio.
Kevin Donnelly, one word, and you can look that up. Kevin Donnelly, and the book is called Wake Up to Woke. Everybody's leaving. See you, Professor. Are you in town next week?
I don't know. I think so.
I'll check.
I'll fly back Friday morning. Yes.
Okay, I'll check.
I'll get an early flight just for you.
I'll check with you. No, thank you. And Frank Pangallo's arrived as well. Stay with us.
Il nous sera donné de vivre, nous en ferons des légendes pour nos enfants. Et farewell, adieu, so long, vaya con Dios, que le ciel nous donne ce que nous cherchons. Hier encore le vin était bien plus doux que du miel. Dieu que ce temps était bon. Dieu que ce temps était bon.
Whether you're building your first, second, or third home or a seasoned property developer, no one likes extra scary costs. Rossdale Homes get that, which is why they pride themselves on their absolute fixed price guarantee. They believe trust is a must, and with their guarantee and fixed price contracts, you'll get no nasty surprises. For peace of mind, trust Rossdale, where only you can change the price. rossdalehomes.com.au, trust is a must. BLD 8104.
The Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen, on the air, live streaming every Friday morning, 9 to 12. And from the garage, we do our posting on Facebook. But it's not only Facebook, on Ozcast. And, John, you're on Ozcast as well, aren't you?
I am indeed, with the Focus podcast, yes.
The Focus podcast, yeah. Good fun. And we, I don't know what the audience is now.
It's big.
Well, Andy told me it was about 7 million.
For you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because he puts it out on half a dozen or a dozen different platforms, and people pass it on to other people and pass it on to other people. It sort of grows like pyramid selling. I don't know, but I'm very grateful. I won't question it. Frank, you've been well?
G'day, Jeremy. Yeah, I have been well. Yeah.
Good.
Still, coming to terms of doing very little. And being a bit irrelevant now. But
well, with a talent like yours, dear friend, why wouldn't the advertiser or Double A be knocking on your door?
Maybe early days, waiting for the dust to settle. Funnily enough, there was
enjoy the rest.
I had a podcast offer.
What would you do? Because I think it's when you see that CBS in the United States have closed down 700 radio stations across the board.
Well, have a look at what the Seven Network are doing here. And 7 West, well, now it's Southern Cross, and it's happening with, those traditional media platforms. Jobs are going everywhere.
Yeah, and when asked, the head of CBS as to what was the problem, I mean, these stations have been there and part of this august network for 100 years. And he said people's habits have changed and sponsors' loyalties have changed. And most people are going to live streaming, which is what we're doing here, or podcasts. That's where people go. And the variety is mind-boggling.
It is.
How people...
It is.
There's a podcast on everything you can think of. What would you do? What would you do?
Look, I'd probably do issues like things that we've discussed here, either social justice, miscarriages of justice, quirky things like, can you believe it? I mean, I've been making notes of some of the stories that I've seen that emerge from the courts or whatever each week, and I'm thinking, wow, have a look at that. And, can you believe it? And all the other stuff that's coming out on...
But you know what's available?
Go on.
I checked with corporate affairs or whatever they call themselves, ASIC now, the pub test.
Or did you register it?
Yes, I did.
Well, that kills that.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, we'll share it.
Test
We'll
is
share it.
great. Yeah, well, let's do it. The
to
pub
license
test.
it out, though.
No, we're not licensing it. I mean, you'll be more than welcome.
I love it.
More than welcome to
well,
use
that's
it.
true.
Okay,
The pub test is fantastic.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
Everybody can identify with what the pub test is. The other one that I was surprised is still available or is available is Meet the Press. You remember the old television
I remember the old
program?
series.
Yeah.
A lot of the kids would be saying, what's the press?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, is that what Mum uses to iron my shirt?
I didn't think of that. Oh, well.
I think that one's sort of been lost in history. Meet the press. I think that one's gone.
I'm glad I brought that up. Meet the podcasters.
Yeah.
Or something, yeah. Something around podcasting. You're always thinking, Jeremy. That's good. I see the red wine's flowing today.
Well,
you're doing your best to try and boost the wastewater results. Did you see that?
No.
So, they've been testing
They test the wastewater for
they've been
drugs.
testing waste. Yeah, they've been testing it for drugs and whatever over the years. And of course, South Australia is the
leading
meth capital probably of the world, no doubt, with that big bust they did the other day. But it found that consumption of alcohol has dropped significantly.
Yeah, and the winemakers are complaining about that as well.
Well,
understandably.
Yeah. But why is that? Is it because there's a generation now that firstly have been turned off alcohol and they can't afford it either? And I reckon I mentioned it on your show a few weeks ago when we were talking about the illegal tobacco, right? Saying, watch see what's going to be next.
But do you know that...
moonshine.
Well, the Laffer curve, Arthur Laffer, who famously in 1974 at a restaurant wrote on a table napkin his famous Laffer curve, which is basically, it says at 100% taxation, or it starts out with at 0% of taxation, the government collects no money. At 100% taxation, the government collects no money. But there is a spot in the middle there, somewhere there, where people will accept tax.
Well, let's flatten the curve.
But if it goes too much the other way, and people look at it and say we're paying far too much tax, as they have with illegal cigarettes,
well, it's happening now
with legal cigarettes, the government is losing. I think it's about $7 billion a year because people are not paying for cigarettes.
Jeremy.
Sorry,
Frank, the Dutch have it right? So the Dutch, back in the olden day Dutch Empire, their entire fortune, much of their fortune came from growing tobacco legally, right? And so
tulips.
And tulips, but tobacco was up there. And frankly, what's happened is that when you go there, you're allowed to smoke outside. There are designated smoking areas. Now, I don't smoke, but I do have the occasional stogie. I like a good Cuban, And because I just followed out from a successful conference, I was sitting outside of my hotel in the designated smoking area.
I can see him
huge
with a cigar.
stogie, and just watching the world go by. It was absolutely fantastic. And then I think to myself, I used to come home from the Emirates, and I used to always buy myself and a mate of mine who enjoys the occasional stogie as well. a box of I think that they're Dutch, King Willem
Yeah.
cigars.
Oh,
they're actually quite long.
Well, there used to be little Willems. I used to smoke those when I was a kid.
Well, that's right. But these ones were the big size, Frank, right? And it was my right to go to duty free, pick up one of those boxes and bring them home so I could smoke with my mate while watching footy and having a beer. Well, then one day I rock up at Singapore airport thinking I better go and get those stogies. And the lady says, what country you come from? Australia. What's the problem? Oh, well, your Prime Minister has now banned you from bringing in anything other than 25 grams of tobacco. And I look, honestly, I don't do my nana in public very often, but I think I must have scared the lady because I just thought, what? Kevin bloody Rudd, he did that. I mean, I don't have many vices, but that tiny little bit that I had that I enjoyed, which I only partook in very infrequently, was taken away from me. And I thought Kevin Rudd committed a personalised sin against my being.
Do you, when you travel overseas, do you partake in those little cubicles, the cigar cubicles?
I was wondering what you were getting to.
Wherever I can. I remember, even in Japan, they've got some more liberal smoking laws. You can smoke in hotels, or at least at the time that I was last there in 2019. And I don't know, my colleague and I went through a few cigars because there was something to celebrate, in defence industry. They have a lot of money. He was not shy on spending it, so it was all good. And over a whiskey or a glass of wine, yeah, why not?
That sounds good.
Well, I remember seeing him at a couple of airports. I think it was Johannesburg Airport had one, at Durban when I was in South Africa, and a couple of European ones. Cigar rooms, and you walk past,
and it's just like,
and they're all just sitting in there. It looks like a tobacco sauna.
What's that thing that they have at fine restaurants? Is it a humidor?
Oh yeah. That's where you go. Oh yeah. Oh, I got to tell you this, right? So I went to a tobacconist on my last trip to the Netherlands, and anyway, I walked into this place, and it was right next door to a beautiful fish thing that I had, a fish restaurant that I had my lunch in. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get my 25 legal grams of tobacco and bring it into Australia. And I went in there, and it's amazing because in the Netherlands, you'll know that they're quite liberal with things other than tobacco that you smoke. I'm not into that stuff, but I just wanted the tobacco. And this one here was just tobacco. And they said, oh, where are you from? I'm from Australia. Oh, well, do we have something to show you? And they took me to their humidor. It was one ginormous room with every conceivable flavour and scent of tobacco you could possibly imagine.
At the right temperature.
At the right temperature. And you know what? I bought my 25 grams of tobacco. I brought it into the country, and I still have one Cuban to smoke. One
Cuban, there you go.
Why can't we grow our own? Because it's illegal to
grow our own what?
Tobacco.
Oh, in your backyard?
It's illegal to grow tobacco.
Well, of course it is illegal because it deprives the government of money, Jeremy.
But
you
look,
can't do that.
They're getting less and less because
You can't even make your own moonshine in your backyard.
Well, we can see with illegal cigarettes that is the major. I think it's 80% of cigarettes. 80% of cigarettes are
illegal.
Bootleg.
Well, this is, and again, it goes to show you the utter, total incompetence of state and federal bureaucrats about this. Right now, I remember ringing the alarm bells about it 3 years ago, Jeremy, in Parliament, saying, what's going on here? What are you doing? You had businesses that were legitimately selling cigarettes, from servos to supermarkets and smaller ones, who were saying our revenues are down $100,000 just for 6 months. You have to stop this illegality. Why did it take them 3 to 4 years to wake up?
Well, they can't.
And I'll tell you one of the reasons, though, and they'll never admit it. But of course, with cost of living pressures, the interest rates were going up. People were, wages weren't going up. They wanted to keep the masses quiet, right? The working class, and didn't want to disturb their enjoyment, those that smoked, of getting cheap cigarettes. Yeah. And they just kept quiet about it for a while, hoping it would go away. But what it did was give rise to a new element of criminals, of this tobacco mafia that's bigger than drugs themselves.
And they come in, I gather, in containers, and only 10% of containers of the
Are ever
hundreds
checked.
ever checked. And that leaves thousands and thousands and thousands of opportunities. So, they're prepared to lose one or two containers.
John, do you think you could sniff out a dodgy container with your sort of tobacco nose?
No, sadly, I suffer from allergies, Frank. So no luck
Well,
there.
you think you train a few corgis or beagles, to detect tobacco?
But why don't you just employ a few more customs people to check
absolutely.
a greater number of containers?
But
Dogs.
But they're doing.
Dogs sniff it out.
Dogs
Yeah,
would.
dogs will sniff it. But, there are very clever ways that smugglers are using these days. It's not like the old days. Submarines,
yes,
right?
I know.
Submarines. And they also do drop-offs at sea and then get picked up. Yeah. There are drone drop-offs and all this sort of stuff.
I was going to say, in Colombia, which used to be known and probably still is known for the white stuff, right? Not the right stuff, the white stuff.
What's that? Heroin?
Cocaine.
Cocaine.
Yeah. So anyway, they're using drones now. The various militias that run the cocaine trade are literally declaring war on each other using the same sorts of drone technology that the Russians and the Ukrainians are using against each other. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, this is ridiculous. But that's technology for you. You can't keep it in the bottle.
Now, what about that law that you mentioned at the beginning of the show?
Well, it was a
you,
green.
You weren't on air. It was about.
Yeah, it was a Greens bill. Yeah, it was. Yeah, you were talking about wokeism and
Yes.
Kevin Donnelly's great book. It was a bill that just slipped straight through Parliament. It went through the Legislative Council, and then went straight through the House of Assembly. It was introduced by Robert Sims. Essentially, look, it's. I think it's a copy of a Tasmanian bill that went through a few years ago, but essentially changes the birth certificate and the identity of the parent. So you could identify as either a father, male, mother, female.
Why would you?
It just widened the definition of who is a parent. Why would you do that? I think there was a in the clause that you can be a co-parent. Well, that's fine, and it works all right. But this is the green ideology, the green woke ideology.
Well, the communists.
Well, yes, but also bending to the LGBTQ plus.
Are there
XYZ.
enough? Are there enough LGBTIQ?
Jeremy, what's going to happen when you hit more than 24 letters?
Where do the furries sit in that spectrum?
What are furries?
Oh, you don't know what furries?
The furries.
You don't know what furries
No.
are, Jeremy?
Jeremy!
You're just like my mother. My
Well,
late mother. She was so innocent about these things. My dad and I used to love teasing. Well, furries are a peculiar...
You mean fairies?
No, furries.
Furries,
No, we
Jeremy.
know what fairies are. But furries are people who, believe they identify as animals and they dress accordingly before they do the act. The act, I can't say
act.
Yes. Right. So they're called
But who is
furries.
going to be interested in doing the act with them when they're...
I can tell you this, Jeremy. A friend of mine is a teacher at a public school in South Australia, and there are a couple of furries there that identify as cats.
Yeah.
Oh, do they dress up as cats or they...
Yes, and they identify as cats, and they have to be
But
treated like cats.
But
Jeremy.
you're talking about the teachers or the children?
Children
The children identify as cats.
as cats, right? And
That'd be on the NDIS, wouldn't they?
well, yeah. Well, they may be taken off the NDIS, and then what will they become?
Well, who's going to buy them the catnip?
But
What about whiskers?
Whiskers. Yes.
They've gone years ago.
and that shows you the ridiculousnly of
Why
the
would you
system.
put up a bill like that, let alone pass it?
Well, look, it's the Greens' ideology,
But who got behind the bill and actually had the numbers
Rob
to pass
Sims,
it?
Rob Sims. And look, I like Rob. He's a good mate of mine.
And
I mean, there are
Parliament-
some issues I would never agree with him. The divide is so wide, and he's a genuine bloke. But it just went straight through. But this is indicative of where our parliament is today after the last state election. And we saw that during the week with the abortion debate.
Yes.
and why there was such a comprehensive victory in the lower house, because Labor have got more numbers, and the majority of them are from the left in the lower house. In the upper house, let me see who they are. There's Kyan Ma, Ian Hunter, Emily Burke, Russell Wortley. You know, I think I wouldn't put him on the left. So they've got the numbers in the they didn't have enough numbers in the upper house to get it across. So that's why it got up, because the Liberals, One Nation, and Sarah Game are all from the conservative right of the party, and the Greens were up there, and of course they lost it there. But Malinowskis always knew that it would get defeated if it went down to the lower house. And to his credit, it shows you what a clever politician he is. He didn't want this debate to fester for, once it's passed in the Legislative Council, usually it's about 3 or 4 weeks before they start debating it in the House of Assembly. Everyone gets up and has their say, and then, it gets whipped up into a frenzy in the media, and it's all the talk, and it just deflects away from the real issues in our community. And to his credit, he said, well, bugger this. I want it done and dusted. I don't want this thing hanging around like a bad odour. As soon as it passes the Legislative Council, business in the lower house, we'll get it out of the way, because he knew they had the numbers to kill it off. So it won't come back for this term of Parliament. It won't come back. It'll be crazy.
You've lost me. Is it
Where did I
passed?
lose you?
Well, is it passed?
No. It passed the upper house,
Right.
where they had the numbers,
right?
Okay. Because there were more conservatives.
So it won't be law.
Only by one, by the way. It was only 1-by-1 vote.
Yeah.
And I'll make a confession that I would have opposed the bill. I would have supported the bill. I would have supported it, not opposed it. That is my my belief in right to life.
Yes.
It's interesting how the Premier sort of got around it, right, when they asked him, what were your reasons for doing all this, right, for crossing the floor and voting with Ashton Hearn and the other 6 or 7 others to support the bill. And he just sort of said, there's some aspects of the bill that I don't like and wah. But he didn't say the real reason he did it. The real reason that Tom Koutsantonis is so vehemently opposed to it, right? The reason that I would support the bill. We're Christians.
Yeah.
And it's against our Christian beliefs,
Yeah, but the
particularly
idea-
for Catholics or Greek Orthodox.
But the idea...
But the other one I tell you, the other one that astonished me, and there was Blair Boyer, prominent lefty of the Labor Party, at a press conference with Mira El Danawi, who's a Muslim. Now, I found it strange that a Muslim would support it.
Yeah, that is strange.
Well, it is. I think it's against the Muslim religion. Correct me if I'm wrong. If Ian was here, I would have asked him. But I'm pretty sure that Muslims do not support abortion at all. Yet we had Mira El Danawi, who is a product of the left.
Yeah.
Well, I think that actually answers it. I mean, look, when you say Muslims like Christians, broad church, right? I mean, you can be a Muslim and a secular Muslim, like you can be a Jew and a secular Jew, or you can be a Christian but not really practicing. So it depends on where they orientate themselves.
Well, if you prance around in the community saying you're a proud Muslim, well, you're a proud Muslim. Then, you do
we're
that.
talking about a politician here, right?
Yeah, we are.
But sorry, Frank.
Yeah, well, I was one, and it opened my eyes to so many things, John. Right? Hence the bastards I've known when I finished that book. Right? There'll be stuff in there that some of these guys, will say, "What? That really happened? They really said that? They really reacted that way?" Because I can tell you, Jeremy, many of them are. Not many, I'll say some of them are bricks with ears. Absolutely. They are products of either the union system or the party system that have never had a career. In fact, I was just saying before I came on air, did you hear what Angus Taylor said about, he said about Albanese, which was correct. That Albanese, of course, didn't have a career before entering politics. You know, he was a student and whatever, and then in he went, and he had no life before that. But Taylor then also attacked Pauline Hanson for it, called her a career politician. What? I mean, seriously.
He's had a job.
Well, you know, and then he's bragging about his own background. Well, of course, he's younger than Pauline. We all know that. So he's a freshman. He's been there since 2013. And, okay, he had a bit of a business background. But, you know, Pauline went in after, you know, working her butt off, you know, running fish and chip shops and doing hard manual labour, and went in as somebody who resonated with ordinary people with what she came from. And to attack her and say, you're a career politician? No, she wasn't. Not at all. No. She got elected. She got elected on the fact of what her background was for the Liberal Party. And she's espoused that for 30 years. And for Angus Taylor to come out and whack into her, I mean, what a disingenuous wet lettuce he is. Have a look at him now, right? Well, he is. I'm sorry. He hasn't...
You got me. I'm with you 100%.
His popularity figures haven't spiked at all, Jeremy. And every time I hear him, it's dull.
So the dissatisfaction that we see politically is not spinning any good news for the Liberals. It is clearly a huge victory for Pauline.
Well, it's a huge victory for Pauline, all right. And, you know, the Labor Party will be absolutely worried, particularly after the fallout from the budget. I mean, and then then you hear the Treasurer saying, "Oh, you know, how did he describe it?"
He talks about reform.
No. We lost a little bit of political paint, Jeremy. It's like saying, you know, you've had a head-on car crash.
It's only a flesh
The car's
wound.
been a write-off, but you know, it was just a parking lot scrape.
It's only a flesh wound.
I mean, seriously?
Well...
But this is where these politicians are, right? As John's saying, they are bullshit artists.
No, but they're isolated.
I'm sorry if I use that word.
No, they're in the bubble.
That's what they are.
They're in the bubble and they don't really get it.
No. And then you saw the Senate hearings for the last, you know, for the changes to the tax reforms. They only had 2 days. And then you had bureaucrats that couldn't even provide data to back up some of the estimates that the Treasurer had given about, for instance, compliance, right? To comply, you know, how much it would cost businesses and whatever to comply with the capital gains tax and all the other reforms. They say, you know, 88 million.
Yes.
What? Ridiculous. If you read Judith Sloan in the Australian today.
Great lady.
Yeah, she addresses it perfectly. These guys are incompetent.
Frank, just listening to you, I just figured out your podcast name.
Go on.
Frank says, what? Question mark, exclamation mark. Just Frank says, what?
Now, there's another one, the old Eric Boehm, who was a great journalist. He had
The Beast.
15, as in Beauty and the Beast. He had a segment on 2GB called I'm on Your Side.
I like that one. I've made a note of that. Well. You mentioned it before.
And the other one was This I Believe. Hello?
Hello, this is Toby.
Toby, I tried to ring you.
My apologies. Nothing happened at this end.
No. Oh, well, I had an AI or something tell me that you couldn't take the call at this time. But it's all right. Let me introduce you to everyone around the table. Frank Pangallo, former member of Parliament.
Has-been politician.
Not a has-been politician. Brilliant journalist.
Hello, Frank.
G'day, Toby.
Because Toby Ralph is into marketing, but I think when I met you first, you were in advertising, weren't you?
I was in advertising, and I've carved out a terrible career in propaganda.
Oh, well, we will all benefit from a discussion with you. Dr. John Bruni, and we've got Tony and Gary. So
okay, great.
It's a nice, and Caroline. And it's a nice dining room table at which we all sit, metaphorically.
Yes.
How lovely.
Yeah, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. You left Adelaide. What year was that?
I left Adelaide about 30 years ago because I was very fond of Adelaide. I moved to Melbourne because there's a naught on the end of every project over here, and I'm an avaricious, dreadful person.
No, ambitious.
And that's a nicer way of putting it. Well said, Jeremy.
The Prime Minister wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
He doesn't like aspiration.
And I have worked on an awful lot of awful political campaigns. I've worked on more than 50 around the world, from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe. I worked on
Afghanistan. Tell us, that got to be a challenge. Did you have security guards everywhere you went?
Oh, I did. Yeah. I absolutely did. In fact, I was on a team of 27 and 6 got killed. It was I thought it would be. I thought it would be dinner party danger. It was actually properly dangerous, so I got out as soon as I could. In fact, I kept a diary and Penguin published it, strangely. But anyway.
What was it called? What was it called?
It was called Kabullshit.
That's a good podcast.
Yeah. Anyway, I've done lots of elections. I'm a marketing bloke, and I kind of work in persuasion at the intersection of business and politics. But that's what I do.
Well, if you were advising Pauline Hanson, what would you be saying?
Oh, I'd say 3 things to her. I'd say, and in fact, I've said them to her as it happens. I've said you need, 1, to get more professional, and I'll expand on these. You need to be more professional. Secondly, you need to get greater policy depth. And thirdly, you need to introduce a sort of post-Bogan phase to your party. Can I talk about each a tiny bit, Jeremy?
No, absolutely. The floor is yours.
All right. So professionalism, they're getting tremendous support from a whole lot of people, but they're still a vaguely chaotic party. Some of their candidates say the most extraordinary things, and it brings them into a degree of disrepute. They need to professionalise their governance. If they want to move from being a party of protest to being a really serious, enduring political force, they need to have stronger structures, stronger government, better candidates, and all that sort of thing is point 1. The second thing is they have a lot of popular policies, but they're not famous for detailed costings and things. If you want to run government, you've got to have, economists with thick glasses and boring accents get poring over all the details and making sure it's all right. And it can't all be good news policy. You've got to have a bit of tough love in there too. If you're going to cut $90 billion, as they say they will, let's see a list. Let's see the good things about that. Let's see the negative impacts. Let's see some serious economic cred. And the third point there is deboganising for a point. They've done very well. They speak in very plain terms with a lot of people who like it, but their market it tends to be outer suburban people without a university education. They don't appeal to people who don't speak English at home, unsurprisingly. They are hopeless with Gen Z, and if they want to attract the next tranche of people, which they need to win a number of seats, they're going to have some spokespeople a lot of people agree with what they're saying, but not how it's said. And they need some people who can deliver it in a more palatable way for those groups, I think.
And you've got to have a disciplined, because the Labor Party, one of the great strengths they have is that they are very, very disciplined. Nobody steps out of line.
Yeah, but they've been around for a while, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, they've got a war chest. Well, Pauline's now got a war chest, Toby.
A bit of a one.
She has.
So, no, they've got a big war chest. And, some of the points you make are quite pertinent. You're right about that. They've won the popular battle now. Now's the time to sort of dig the trenches and start getting the expertise in, which I think they will.
Yeah.
And she knows that.
I think they are. It's just what you break while you're doing it, because it's a transformation is a tough trick. But they brought in a bloke called Kelvin as their general manager, who is a very good transformational specialist, and he's trying to make some of those changes, I think. It's not an enviable job.
No, but what would you say to Angus Taylor though, Toby?
Oh.
What
He's got a very tough job too. I mean, where we are, I was talking about this a while ago, and I was saying there's a movie, a Bruce Willis movie, where we see Bruce and there's a young kid in it called Haley Joel Osment, and he clutches his face seriously and says, "I see dead people." And at the end, and at the end of the movie, you work out that Bruce has been dead the entire time, and he hadn't actually worked it out. And I think to a degree that's certainly the two-party system, and it might actually be the Liberal Party unless they're careful. So what I'd say to Angus is, you got to get back to you can only win from the centre. Pauline's going to take the right. If you're going to have a right-wing fight, you're going to lose it because you might win that fight, but you're going to lose the centre, and Labor will be stuck there forever. The Teals will expand, the Greens will expand, and you'll just become a party of the right. He's got to win from the centre, and that's a tough call.
But what can you do? What's one of the things that he should be doing to try and put that flag in the sand and be heard? Because he just, this is the thing with the Liberal Party, both federally and state-wise here, is they just can't seem to make much headway in winning media exposure the right way. No. They can't recognise an opportunity, how to pitch it and how to sell it to the public. And I think this has been part of their problem, Toby.
I completely agree. I think one of the things they have to do is return to that dreary old subject of economic management and debt. They have an inherent, Labor are always going to be seen to be the party that care a bit more about nurses and schools because that's their brand. The Liberals, be it true or not, will be seen to be the company that knows more about money. Australia has got this addiction to debt. I was working out the other day what was government debt on January the 1st, 2000, and what's government debt today, and how much have we spent per day since then, every day, for the last 26 years, more than we've raised. And that sum is around $150 million a day, which is just a staggering.
It is.
I know.
It resembles Argentinarism, right? Peronism.
Absolutely.
Banana Republic stuff. But isn't it true that just this year, 20 years ago, Peter Costello had paid off, admittedly it was the money from the sale of Telstra, but we were debt-free in 2006.
Peter exactly Costello. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, Peter should really stick his hand up again and take one for the team and do some work. I mean, we've got Tim Wilson now, who's very good, actually. He's a very good shadow treasurer, but he's still finding his feet and he doesn't have any power. But Peter did a great job. And the Liberals' natural space is to say this money, why do we have declining services? Why do we have inflation? Why do we have hospitals that can't quite afford things at a local level? Why do we have all these problems? Because we've got this mountain of debt that we have to pay, and we've got to address that. Otherwise, young kids are going to be saddled with it, and you think things are unaffordable now, they're going to get so much worse. So I think that's a territory on which they can make some real ground and hopefully do some good for the country.
Yeah, your reference to the opposition treasurer. So the other thing I've noticed about him, which is lacking in the Liberal Party, both federally and state, is he's able to land leather, right? He's able to land a punch and people notice him and, his attack on Rishworth and others, right? Which is all they can really do at the moment, is try and land some leather and try. What I'm saying is they're missing, Toby, is a bit of narcissism. Well,
what do you mean?
Well, bastardry, right? And look, mongrellism, right? Because in fact, there's an even stronger word that one of my Labor colleagues was saying to me last year, right, about the Liberals, what they lacked. Right? He said, what we've got and what they don't have, right?
What is
and
it?
Well, it's a very strong. I'll tell you off air, Jeremy.
No. Tell me on air.
No, I'm not going to tell you on air because you'll be pulled off air. It's such a strong
This is the Wild West. Nobody has any rules here.
Well, it's sort of similar to a female sexual organ. Right?
Oh, I see.
Right?
I get
and
you.
that they don't have that. And he said to you, kept saying to you, which is something we have. We know how to get into the trenches and fight bare-fisted, right? We know what to do. In other words, they know how to find and get scalps. And that weakens a party. Now, when I'm told by the Liberal Party, firstly, restrict or stop doing your media, right? All right, don't do media.
Well, you do media brilliantly.
Well, I was told not to, otherwise I'd be disendorsed, right? If I went out and did media without them knowing or whatever. That wasn't me. And then I'm told, because I was pretty critical of the Premier over a number of issues, right, that was going on. So I was attacking the Premier in online. And I'm told twice, don't attack Peter Malinauskas.
Why?
Because our voters like him.
Yeah.
You're going to hit me over with a feather duster.
He's bulletproof.
Our voters like him. And I said, well, hang on, isn't it our job to make sure that the electorate doesn't like him?
You would think.
But so apparently they did some polling amongst Liberal voters and they all liked him. So lay off him. And you'll notice generally they don't go after him.
Right? No. Toby, it's a dog's breakfast, really. I mean, in politics today, it used to be kind of clean cut. But not anymore.
No. It's. The big picture is, of course, that we're seeing the evaporation of the two-party system, which echoes a whole lot of other things going on in society.
But why not bring in? Why not bring in the parties of the left? I mean, Pauline Hanson has been at this very table when she was last in Adelaide, and she said, "Look, I will not enter a formal coalition with the Liberal Party, but I will seek to have a collection of like-minded people doing what has to be done, which is getting rid of Labor. In other words, she'll guarantee supply and confidence, but she doesn't want to be told what to do by the Liberals. Now, there are various other parties of the right. It couldn't be that difficult to just come together in a marriage of convenience.
It's a marriage that won't work, Jeremy.
Well, a lot of marriages don't work.
No, well, this one won't. Yeah, I can tell you now. I can predict it now. It won't work. A marriage between one nation and the coalition, Nationals and the Liberals, won't work. They'll be at each other's throats, and it's who's going to be in control, and who's going to get this, and who's going to get that.
But isn't it true that Pauline Hanson is going to need expertise?
She is
on a front bench.
But you can get that. You can get that, Jeremy. They'll be able to get that. It's out there. There are people that are now starting to gravitate who were former Liberal supporters that have had a gutful of them, and even there's some disaffected, conservative Labor minds that are also looking, saying, "Well, okay," only because they can see they can hitch their wagon to a populist movement.
Good.
That's what it is.
Promising. Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening. I haven't seen. Look, in all my years, so I had more than 50 years in public life as a journalist and then as a politician. I have never experienced what we're seeing now.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Wouldn't be dead for quids.
Well, when we're dead, they'll be talking about it and they'll be writing books about it.
What did you say, Toby?
You look at this latest fundraising that she did on the Fire the Liar campaign. Yeah. They've had, I don't know what the number is at the moment, but it was looking like about 4 million. And it's all done in $50 bits. I think $56 is the average donation.
You know what Labor got, Toby?
I guess 20 grand or something.
Yeah, you're right. 27,000 apparently.
Labor got $27,000. Well, why would we be giving them the money?
I mean, you think of that, and that's like That's 75,000 people or thereabouts who've tipped in their own money, and most of them are battlers from the burbs. And there are, I think, about 35,000 Liberal Party members. There are about 50,000 Labor Party members, I think. And this is 75,000 people who voted with their paychecks for what she's saying and doing. It's formidable.
Well, the Liberal Party were beneficiaries of a very generous donation from a philanthropist here, Pamela Wall, of, I think it was about 5 million.
Oh, she's a remarkable.
She's a remarkable philanthropist.
Drowning in money.
How did they make their money? He was one of the three. Codan, wasn't it?
Codan.
Ian Wall was one of the three founders.
And that's a multi-billion-dollar company with contracts all over the world.
Her shares are worth 1.4 billion.
So it's through Silicon Valley, isn't it? Is it?
No. Codan is a radio company that started in Grave Street, Newton.
Yeah,
in
but what did it branch out into? It
made HF radios, then it made satellite gear. Yeah. Now it's into metal detectors, satellite
That's it,
communications.
the metal detectors.
Yeah, they bought Minelab in 2007.
And they lived just around the corner from here for years and years and years till he died. And she's still going, I believe. Is she?
She's early 90s and she's trying to give away
Trying to give away money. Oh dear, oh dear.
I stand ready to help.
I remember he had a most beautiful silver ghost Rolls Royce.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. But he deserved every bit of his success. And his,
but you're not going to find generous benefactors like that, are you? In the political party, yeah, and to give them that much. And they had that money prior to the state election. And what did they do? What did they do with it? Nothing. There were no attack ads. No. In fact, I remember them telling me there was this call flute of an ambulance, right? And the original wording on it was basically that Labor had killed people through ramping, right? I can't think of the exact wording, but
true.
it was very clever, right? And true. But they got spooked and changed it. And, of course, we've just had an inquest that came out that slammed Labor for the deaths of 3 people because of ramping. So it was true. But this is what I'm saying. They're scared to fight, Jeremy.
Toby, you know what ramping is?
I do know what ramping is. Oh, yes. I certainly do. We're pretty good at it here in Victoria, too.
It's actually a worldwide problem, to be quite honest, Jeremy.
I'm surprised with Labor's lying in Canberra and the behaviour of Jacinta Allen and what the CFMEU scandals and all of that in Victoria. I can't believe that they are...
still there, innit?
Still there.
It's astonishing. I mean, there's an election in November, but there's an uphill battle. You've got One Nation who are going to do very well in the regions. You've got Liberals who should pick up a few seats, but will probably lose a few because they've got more marginals than Labor. And you've got Labor who will fight tooth and nail to defend their territory. It's going to be an interesting election. It's not even in this ghastly situation where there's $15 million of corruption to the CFMEU, where there's $200 billion. Sorry, that's billion. $200 billion of state debt, where there's awful things happening here, and the state in a great state of disrepair. They're still not automatically going to get kicked out. It's amazing.
Well, is it because the opposition leader isn't really making an impact? I mean, I see a lot of her videos and stuff, and there's some clever ones that I've seen her do. But are they taking her seriously? Is she the type of leader? See, this is what Labor here have a fantastic leader, probably the best politician I've seen in 50 years.
And Liberal voters like him.
Exactly. But over in Victoria, there isn't an outstanding leader to take on the Labor Party, and I think that's the issue. What are we waiting for? But how would you pitch it over there in November, Toby, with... I'm sure that the One Nation are going to utilise the fire the liar campaign in Victoria because, you know, the Andrews and Allen governments have been liars. You could fire the liars. Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very powerful slogan.
And they're going to put a statue up to Andrews.
Well, they have, haven't they?
Or is I think it's in the making.
It's in the making.
Oh, dear, oh, dear. Toby, you'll have to come on the show again.
Yeah.
Do you ever get back to town?
I'd love to.
Do you ever get back to town?
I do. I'm lucky enough to be on the board of a winery there, Shaw and Smith. Terrific wine.
Yeah, they are.
Very good.
Get a plug in. So I come there occasionally, and I'll come and infest your studio and sit around your table with you.
I think
you'll love that because Jeremy loves the wine flying.
That would be fantastic. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Good on
Many
you,
thanks, guys.
Toby, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure. Take it easy. Bye.
Appreciate it. Toby Ralph, marketing strategist. Interesting guy.
He is an interesting guy. Yeah.
The world is full of interesting guys.
People that make sense.
Yeah. I like
dollars
that.
and cents, zeros in Victoria.
I like that, yeah.
Adding zeros.
Whether you're building your first, second or third home or a seasoned property developer, no one likes extra scary costs. Rossdale Homes get that, which is why they pride themselves on their absolute fixed price guarantee. They believe trust is a must, and with their guarantee and fixed price contract, you'll get no nasty surprises. For peace of mind, trust Rossdale, where only you can change the price. rossdalehomes.com.au, trust is a must. BLD 8104.
When you can't find a friend, you still got the radio. Singing with the radio. Can't find a friend, you still got the radio. The radio. Listen to the radio. The radio. Listen to the radio. Still got the radio. Listen to the radio. The radio. Listen to the radio.
Radio, ladies and gentlemen, as you have not heard it before, maybe, for a little while anyway. Online, jeremycordeaux.com, from around the dining room table. What we got there? Hello.
Jeremy, good
John.
morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Frank Pangallo's still here. Gary's here. Tony's here. I'm here. Caroline is here. And you're here.
Good morning to the team. How do you feel about Gina Reinhardt wanting to agree with Pauline Hanson to sell off the islands off of Queensland coast to Elon Musk?
I didn't know about that. You heard about that?
I thought actually when it was said as a joke. But what, you think she's serious about that?
Well, she's made a statement to say that she agrees with Pauline. That's what we ought to do, is sell the islands to Elon Musk.
Sometimes you have to sell things that you don't want to sell because you've got debt handed to you by a previous government that you cannot live with.
Well, why can't they just say, we're going to lift the GST?
Well, and put it on everything, and a tax on consumption makes a lot of sense.
We want CGT abolished. We want fringe benefits tax.
We want fringe benefits tax gone, capital gains tax gone. What tax do you want gone, John?
Well, I'll tell you something. My son runs his own business. This is how he feels about it. He said, if I wanted to sell my business, he just put it in quick round figures. He said, and say I sold it for $2 million. He said, under the new rules of the federal government that they want to bring in, he said they take 47%.
Yeah,
exactly. Oh, well, they've backed off on that now, though. They backed off on it yesterday.
No,
there's a ceiling, there's a cap.
There's a cap.
No, they've lifted the cap significantly.
To 10 billion. 10 million.
There's other limitations, like asset values has to be less than $6 million. There's a whole bunch. They're very hard things to jump through.
Well, I'll tell you, my son is that way. He said, I'll tell you how I feel about it. He said, if I had a couple of $1 million in my back pocket, he said, I might move my business to Singapore.
Yes.
Just like that. He said, bugger him. He said, because he said, why should I work my gut out? Like, he employs about 5 people, and he's got to find super and extra pay and what have you. He said, I'm not running a bank. He said, it's just he's an insurance broker. He said, and it's difficult. because he said when you go out to various people, you tell them the costs have risen, and some of them go, no, not interested. And he said, and you can do, a couple of weeks legwork trying to get the best deal for them. And when they say no, it's just a couple of weeks of wasted time. You don't get no compensation for that.
No, I mean, they have put a tax on incentive and aspiration, and they will pay dearly at the ballot box for that. They're paying for it dearly now.
Well, so they should, because I'm not joking you, Jeremy. The way we feel down here is that the country's going backwards. We're not moving forward. And, some of the things that Pauline Hanson came out with on Wednesday when she had her speech, some of the truth that she spoke was fair enough,
Yeah.
And people have had it. They've had it right up to their back teeth.
No, her speech resonated, you could tell.
Yeah.
Even in that environment, which was certainly a hostile one, or potentially a deadly one. But she was brave. John, she went in there, into the lion's den, and did well. No, we can be proud of her. John, thank you for that. We've got to move on. We're here for Rossdale Homes, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to the radio. Okay, we're almost out of time. I wanted to catch up with Stuart Kay because we did talk a few weeks back about his plate auction. This is where he has these not personalised plates. They're numbered plates. They're rare, they're scarce, and they are an incredible investment, on which I do not think there is any capital gains tax payable. I'll check that with Frank.
Is that right?
I believe so. Stuart, are you there?
Yes, Jeremy. How are you? And hello to your listeners.
Well, it's the government that sells them.
Yeah, but let's say...
so they wouldn't be paying capital gains, would they?
No, but...
the persons that sell them...
Yeah. No, but if you invest... And Stuart, people do buy them for an investment rather than just to decorate the car, don't they? Isn't that the gig?
Certainly, they have the double bonus of being a great investment and also, the perfect finish to a vehicle, and not being historic, being over 100 years since a lot of these were first issued. They have a nice tie back to our early motoring history. So the good old government that they've done the budget, and I'm sure we've all talked about the budget a lot. I'd hate to make a sweeping statement that they're capital gain free, but the folks I've spoken with and the accountants and the wise sages who make this their business have advised that. So we always say to people, do your own research. But, if you had, as we say, your Nana's old MG in the shed that she paid £500 for back in the 60s and you sold it, that, as I understand, wouldn't be subject to said tax, and the number plates, I believe, are treated the same. So as with anything financial, do your research and see that circumstances suit yourself.
I don't like the way you say back in the 60s. I mean that's yesterday. It's just a blink ago.
I was trying to think, when before decimal currency, before 1966, when we were pounds and shillings.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense though about capital gains because you're buying it. You're not going to be making. You're not renting it out to anybody. There's no claims on it.
It's an asset
it's
class.
An asset. It is. It's sort of an asset class.
And like with super funds, if you buy a nice painting and you have it in your super fund, which people do, there are some rules that govern how that may or may not be displayed in your home. It has to be a certain in a location, a certain distance from your residents and what have you, and so people do buy number plates in a superannuation fund, and that has a license number, and just means that essentially it goes on ice and can't be registered on a vehicle, but the ownership can be retained and popped in a drawer somewhere, a plate and a bit of paperwork that says you've spent $50,000 on a nice number, and you would hope that'll be $100,000 in the future. And
Stuart, I've got I wonder if you can give me a quote on this one. I've got FP 1954. you reckon that's worth anything? I don't know.
But look, if it was just 1954, it certainly would be.
It would be.
It's the number-only plates, or the historic ones that were first issued in the 1900s, are the ones that sort of lead the market, and there's Grand Prix ones we've talked about, of course, as well. And we had good bidders the other night, and I have a lovely story of a lady who her husband bought a 3-digit number plate back in the late 80s, and they lived on York Peninsula, and they had it forever. And I think, with the greatest of respect to her, she had a fairly modest little car that she was driving around in, and it had this number plate on it that we quoted sort of 120, and we ended up getting $170,000 for it. So
what would she have paid for it back then?
Back then, it would have been between 500 and 1,000. So
that's a capital gain. Right?
And for her, the loveliness of the story is she had and I'm not going to get into personal things, we never do, but it will literally change her life and her circumstance. So that was really, it was a wonder. The buyer was very, very tickled pink to get it, and she was very, very pleased. So sometimes those nice stories, the universe plays it out in such a manner that's appropriate and good, and that's certainly what happened the other night.
What were the numbers?
It was 616, so what we call a palindrome, or a bookended number. So
Glenelg.
Yes.
Glenelg in numbers. 616.
Exactly, that's correct. Yeah. So the more attractive or the neater numbers usually find an audience, a greater audience, and that was a lovely number, and that's rare that we, of all the permutations, there's just not that many that would have there was only 9, or the 212, 313, 414. There's only 8 of those essentially, because there would be 111. So
what about 666?
They're desirable.
What about 666? Is that out
We
there?
sold 666 a few years ago, and the triple numbers would be considered the most desirable in that 3-digit series, but because of the old, the number of the beast connotations, that was a slightly harder sell. Although the folks that bought it love it and don't have any superstition around it.
No, but it'll look good on
a good number.
On a growling V12, wouldn't it? Or
absolutely.
Or a massive
Lamborghini
truck.
Diablo. That's what it should have ended up on, a Lamborghini Diablo.
Yeah.
Gary, have you got any? Because you've got old cars, and do you have any?
I've got a few old number plates. I've got a good story. I've got a friend with SA747 that's been on his Triumph TR3A for over 40 years. But I've got SA904, which is probably not a bad number to have. And SA7725.
Great old Porsche number.
What's the most that's been paid for one, Stuart?
We broke the record only recently, which we're very proud to have done. We had a client who bought... her family bought plate number 7 through an old school in the early 90s, a fax tender. You had to fax in your price on a little bit of paper and send it through to the rego office, and they bought plate number 7 way back when, and we sold it for what is a record price. The record price at auction, the government sold number 8 a couple of years back, and that was $2.3 million, and our sale of 7 eclipsed that. So we, literally... as we said last time, a house and only park with a court and a pool. Although I'm not up with only park house values, but it'd certainly buy you a nice domicile, that's for sure.
And that is purely based on the fact that they're not only highly sought after, but the investment value and history is there for people to see that you cannot double, you cannot triple, you can 100 times what you paid for the plate. It can be returned to you. I can't think of another asset class where you get that sort of certainty.
No, that's true, and ironically, it's not purely a South Australian phenomenon. It's nationally, and whether you're in Victoria or New South Wales, and then certainly these fine numbers in Dubai or Hong Kong or in the UK attract a premium as well. So it's. You buy a Petit Philippe watch, and only the sort of people who might know what it is see it on your wrist and go, "Wow, that's quite special." Or, a Rolls Royce to drive around town in, but a number plate has a number of different touch points. I guess it's a historic item that's been issued many years ago, but it's also finishes off a beautiful car, but then it's also a sort of a visual display of either you're now buying a good investment or wealth and success. So there's an element, in ownership of that as well.
I might have asked you before, but number one must be out there somewhere. What would
yes, number one's on a. There was a dry cleaners in Glenelg, family, lovely family we've spoken to before, I personally, and it was on their delivery van for dry cleaning. It's a little Ford Thames van. It's got silver chrome rails in the back from the driver's seat back down. I used to drive around and drop off the dry cleaning, and on the front of it, it's got an arrow that points down to the number one, and on the back, it's got a big red arrow too. And they call themselves Number One Dry Cleaners.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
They were based on just that little diagonal road that goes from Glenelg up to Marion, just off that. And just trying to think of the name of the road anyway. And they were there they had that plate since the 50s. So it's still on the van, but they've never been
Still
able
there.
to.
Still on there.
Yes. They don't have the transferable title that was issued by the government. So the not every number in the universe from 1 to 999 has that title, and that's what we sell. It's a government issued and endorsed title, and that's where the value is.
What would it be worth?
Oh, that's probably 5 to 8. It's
million.
And when I say 5 to 8, I say million fairly nonchalantly. Yeah,
but the government owns it.
The government owns it.
Well,
flog it off. They'd flog it off.
Yeah.
The government ultimately have say on it because they've never issued rights to it. But while the vehicle's registered, it can't come off that vehicle. And there's a whole lot of, I guess, background that we make sure when we sell these things that that title is guaranteed and assured to our new buyers, because that's where the value is. But there's a few number 5s in the same boat. Number 10, number 11. 10 was previously number 11, number 20, number 50, 77, 88. There's a whole series of nice numbers that are either on old cars or vehicles or trailers. Even in the instance there's an old trailer registered, so that number technically can't be sold. Those early adopters or folks that bought them all those years ago, or even recently at recent auctions, have seen a good return. So in the case of our auction this week, our vendor of that 3-digit number was very happy, and the buyer was super happy to have it as well.
Did you sell out?
We did. We had one 4-digit number that I'm negotiating on at the moment, but we had essentially a 95% sale rate, which was healthy. And that other one, I just got off the phone, and I'll be surprised if the fellow I spoke to doesn't take it. So that will sell out, and we've got another one coming in sort of six weeks' time. With some
How many plates
numbers.
did you sell?
We've sold about a dozen, I think, in the end, without looking at it.
Wow! And
we had a little. They issued a series of plates, Centenary of Federation plates. So in our Centenary, we sold a few of those for a couple of thousand, right up to a couple of 100,000. So you can have everything in between.
Good Lord! So the car's running around. The plate is worth more than the car.
Quite often, certainly in
the
that
house.
instance, it was. I nearly fell off my. I nearly had an accident parking my car when I saw a very, very modest little car with a $170,000 number plate on it.
Stuart, is there a difference between the numbers on cars and motorbikes?
No, there are certain the black and white numbers can be used on motorbikes, but only under a 5-digit plate. The motorbikes can't have a 6-digit plate. I think it's just purely because the number of numerals and the space available they've got to put on a plate on the back of it. So when they were first issued, they had different classes of vehicles, whether it was like a steamroller for a cricket pitch that was going on the roads had to be registered. So that had a class, and then there was a motorcycle class and a motor vehicle class. But these plates, the rights to these plates that we have now can be used across, obviously you can put it on your car or your truck or your motorbike, according to the rules. So there is, they can be used on motorbikes.
SA1 was on a motorbike owned by motoring identity Jack Jarvis.
Right.
What's happened to that, I wonder?
Yeah.
So what happened with that is when they first issued these, they had those three classes, and they issued one on the first trailer or truck or agricultural machinery, one on the first cycle and one on the first vehicle, and one being one over the years they had them, they maintained registration and had them registered, which in part can explain why some of these don't have rights, because if you had number 5, for example, on a vehicle and number 5, for example, on a trailer, then the quandary was, well, who gets the rights to the valuable number plate when you both got them registered? So that all got put in the too hard basket, and they weren't actually, they never gave up the registration. There was a Vincent Black Shadow with 88 on it that I've got a photo of, one of the greatest motorcycles ever made,
Sure.
and I can imagine the 50s and 60s building around on the fastest, I think it was literally the fastest machine that you could buy on the roads at that particular time, with 88 on the number plate.
Well, you hit on a wonderful idea, Stuart, doing all of this stuff. Your dad would be proud of you.
Thank you.
Caroline has just slipped me a note here that says, what would I'm late sell for, please? What are you trying to tell me?
I think sometimes someone would argue that's a plate I should have on my car, but punctuality is close to God, isn't it?
Fashionably late. Nothing wrong with that.
The novelty plates or the vanity plates, as they call them in America, I think unfairly, but we sell a few of those, and they're the right ones, interesting ones, and they're usually vehicle related, or if you've had Crows, I'm sure there'd be someone who'd be all over the Crows number plate, or POWER for power, or those cultural sort of icons. I know there's a fellow in the sporting car club's got an old Army Land Rover with Army on it. I think that's quite cool.
Is there money in those?
There's a little bit. There's you narrow your target market purely because it's a very specific thing. And I got asked to value a Ferrari number plate in Queensland the other day. Dino GT, which is a two-door Ferrari Dino. They're probably selling for 700,000 or 800,000, but that plate has an intrinsic value, but the car.
Actually, they bring more.
But you have to find someone who's got a Dino GT that wants to put that on their car and spend the money accordingly. So they become quite specialised. The numeral only can go on a $500 Mitsubishi or a $500,000 Ferrari, and they all look the same. So that tends to be where the money and therefore the market settles.
Fascinating. Great to talk to you, Stuart. Thank you
Great to
very
talk to you all.
much.
Thanks for the follow-up. And yes, keep dry and have a nice weekend, everyone.
All the best.
All the best. Thanks, Jeremy.
Stuart Kay, ladies and gentlemen. We're just talking number plates here amongst ourselves. Well, I don't know. I think when I bought my number plates, because Frank just asked me if I had any fancy number plates, I'm lucky enough to have sort of consecutive numbers, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6, 7, 8, 9. But they're 4-plate numbers, so there's nothing exotic or particularly special. But I got them, oh, God, I don't know what, maybe 30 years ago. And I probably paid $1,800 for the two.
No more.
No,
at the time.
no. And the black and white plates always look nicer on a car. I don't know why.
My uncle had an EJ Holden 7374, right?
7374.
And the car's still going around because I think one of my relatives inherited it.
Yeah.
He'd roll in his grave to think what it's worth today.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the trouble is if he's got it on the car and that car changes ownership, he loses that number.
Oh, he's had it for years.
But you got to keep it.
Doesn't matter.
You got to keep it.
You got to keep it.
If he was to decease and someone else took on the car, then they would lose that number.
They'd lose the number.
Yeah. It goes back to the government.
Well, the
There you
government.
go. Yeah, they
censors-
take control. They saw what it was worth.
I don't know if you follow British politics, but I've just been flashed. Andy Burnham wins Makerfield by-election in a landslide,
Oof.
setting up a tantalising Labour leadership fight
Yeah.
within weeks,
Well, there you go.
if not even days.
Goodbye, Keir Starmer.
Yes.
Secure. Yeah.
I'm not even sure what he did wrong, but he was obviously on the nose. They just didn't like him. Huge majority.
Well, there was a
Won an
lot.
election.
Look, there was a lot of things that weren't going right with the British economy, but it's the
Still
same.
aren't.
It's the same wave of dissatisfaction
Yeah, but
that we're seeing here.
Another-
Immigration was the one
Yeah. Yes.
where all these illegal immigrants were just flooding the shores of
This guy's just going to be another Labour leader.
yeah, another stooge.
Yeah.
Another popular stooge.
Well, he's capitalising on a movement. Caroline, yes, I can.
She's pointing at the clock.
See the clock. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got to
Have
do.
you done your on this day? Have you done that?
Well, yes, we've got it here. Look, it's all set to go. June the 10th. No, June the 12th.
19th.
No,
It's
June
the
the
19th.
It's the 19th today.
3 goes and you get it right.
Happy birthday, Taz.
Happy birthday to Taz, the Tasmanian Devil, a Warner Brothers cartoon character created by Robert McKimson and Warren Foster. Caboose on Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies in Devil May... No, it's not Devil May Care, it's Devil May Hair.
Bugs Bunny.
As in Bugs Bunny.
But that's going to be interesting when the Tasmanian footy team comes in.
Yeah.
You know, how they can try and utilise that Taz, right? Because it's a great branding for a footy club, isn't it?
Yeah. Tasmanian Devil. Tenacious.
They found Mary, the one that was lost.
Got away.
Yeah, they found her.
No, she wasn't lost. She escaped.
She escaped. Well, that's true. Yeah.
1954. Taz, the Tasmanian Devil, was born to Warner Brothers.
That's my year, Jeremy, by the way.
Is it? You
Only
were born?
54, yeah. There you go.
Both of you.
Yeah.
A good year for people. The British royal family, which has had strong German ties since George I, renounces its German names and titles and adopts the name Windsor. 1917. Mm-hmm. Well, that was after. No, it was sort of 1 year before the end of the First World War. So that had enough of that odium. Robert Peel introduces the Metropolitan Police Act in 1829 to Parliament, establishes a unified police force for London, the city's first modern police force. The Bobbies. On this day in 1829. Louis Jourdan, French actor. The Paradigm Case, Count Dracula, Gigi, Octopussy, born in Marseille, France. He died in 2015. He was born in 1921 on this day. A law requiring classroom display of the Ten Commandments is signed into law by the Louisiana governor, Jeff Landry. First state to do so, 2024. What would be wrong? Of course, you'd get a lot of lefties who would object strongly to the idea that you could put the Ten Commandments up in a classroom, but I'd vote for that. The first full genetic study of cats. Published in Nature, Ecology and Evolution, reveals that they were domesticated 9,000 years ago and are the descendants of one species. Guess.
Well, Bengals.
No, the African wildcat. The African wildcat. This is a good one. Where do you think the name boycott came from, or the term boycott?
The term boycott.
Yeah, this is going to be boycotted. This is
Obviously not from the feminist movement.
No, not the cricket.
I've heard this one, actually. Boycott. I've heard this one. It's rather unusual.
Well, Charles, his name was Charles Boycott, Irish estate manager whose workers refused to work for him amid Irish rent and land issues. The origin of the term boycott. He dies at 65 on this day in 1897.
Well, it'd be personal.
I knew it had something to do with a name.
Yeah.
Change that
It's in the language.
Cott.
First full genetic study of cats.
Cats, there you go. You done.
Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin end their partnership after 10 years and 16 films, 1956, to be reunited 20 years later by Frank Sinatra at a charity telethon thing. The French King Louis XI forms, guess what?
Forms what?
Forms what?
Louis XI.
Yeah.
Louis XI.
1464. A world first. Well,
you got me. I'm not good on French history.
It's this. He forms the first postal service.
Ah.
And now, if
right, okay, because this is where the there's a lot of French words. That sort of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of French. Yeah.
And if you go to Denmark today, there is no mail service. You cannot write a letter and send a letter. You can write a letter, but there's no way of
just
sending.
Just about can't do that now. Here.
No, it's all emails.
Got to put it in a box.
Carole King starts a 5-week run at number 1 on the US singles chart with a double A-sided single.
What was that?
Well, it's called...
Carole King.
Carole King. It's Too Late on one side and I Feel the Earth Move on the other. That's
right.
71 was the year. 1971. The Earl of Pembroke's army defeats Robert the Bruce, his Scottish army, at the Battle of Methven, 1306. On this very day. Aung San Suu Kyi. I've never seen it written down. I know how to say it, but it's an interesting name. I mean, AUNGSANSUUKYI. Aung San Suu Kyi. 1945. We were born the same year. 1945. Burmese politician, leader of the National League for Democracy and Human Rights activist. 1991 Nobel Prize winner, born in Rangoon in British Burma. Aung San Suu Kyi.
Back under house arrest.
Yeah,
she
apparently.
Is. I noticed her son's campaigning very heavily for her. She's so loved by the people.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, well, that doesn't worry the regime.
No, she's a bit of a victim like that.
The world's oldest wine.
There you go.
A white, revealed inside a 1st century Roman funeral urn. Pardon me. Mixed with a man's ashes. In a mausoleum in Carmona, Spain.
They do a taste test on it?
But,
he probably died treading the grapes and they just left him there.
Well, I reckon the wine would kill you.
Well, something did. 2024 was the year. Valentina Tereshkova, the first woman in space, returns to Earth this day, 1963. And Father's Day is celebrated for the first time in Spokane, Washington, on this day in 1910.
I often wonder when it'll be reported the first mile high in a astronauts' environment.
The first mile high in the...
I always think, that's a good one, Gary, because I always think about that. I'm thinking, well,
how would you do it? I mean, it would be complicated.
Well, that's the question. I mean, next
Anything
time
you have floating around in there in the air like that, it's just to be a meeting of waves.
Well, imagine what would have happened on the International Space Station.
Well, indeed.
Especially when they were stuck there for
can't help thinking
months
about
on
it, can
end.
you?
You can't tell me it didn't?
Well, I don't know. You'll have to ask somebody, Jeremy, if you ever speak to an astronaut.
I mean,
okay.
There is something for the Guinness Book of Records.
A couple more.
Well, no one's ever raised it. That's very good. You hear about everything else.
Yes.
How to wee and go to the toilet
That's
and
a good
drink
podcast
and eat.
there
But
for you.
There's a good podcast, yeah.
Yes.
What are they doing in the space station?
Okay.
We started with Taz, so now we have to move on to Peter Pan and Garfield.
All right, Peter Pan and Garfield. All right, 1937, J.M. Barrie, Scottish novelist, playwright who created Peter Pan, dies at 77, this day in 37. And one more. Garfield, created by Jim Davis, first appears as a comic strip on this day in 1878. No, 1978. Sorry about that. Thank you, my dear. Thank you.
Your eyesight's almost as good as my hearing, Jeremy.
Look, it all has been savaged by time, that's all I can say. Look, thank you to Mike O'Reilly and Dr. John Bruni and Professor Plimer and Dr. Kevin Donnelly AM and Frank Pangallo, of course. The Honourable.
No, I'm not. No,
of course you are. Always in my book.
Oh, thank you, Jeremy. Yeah.
Always in my book. And Toby Ralph, strategist. And Stuart Kay, Tony, Gary, and Caroline, and everybody who took part.
That's 7 million out there, Jeremy.
I know, 7 million.
7 million.
Lucky listeners.
It's a wonderful privilege to sit here at the dining room table and talk to you. We'll be back Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock with a posting on Facebook, and that usually goes for half an hour, sort of a somewhat
abbreviated.
Well, it's a rant, yes. It's a quick rant, and one on Thursday as well, and here back at the dining room table next Friday, all with the best wishes of Rossdale Homes, ladies and gentlemen. Believe in yourself, have a great weekend, and goodbye for now.
We're together, right or wrong. Where you go, I'll tag along. Remember me, I'm the